Chapter 326. Lu Qingmei's residence was a single room, but it was still warm and elegant, without any sense of disorder. It seems that ever since Tang Zheng first bumped into the messy scene of her house, she has changed this habit. Do you want some water? I'll boil some water for you. Lu Qingmei said. No need. Tang Zheng held her hand and stared at her. A man and a woman alone in a room. He couldn't help but recall the scene from that night, and his heart began to heat up. Seeing the passion in his eyes, Lu Qingmei gave a charming smile. Was it that good to look at? I couldn't stop looking. Of course it was good to look at. Tang Zheng's arm tightened, and she tightly stuck to his body. Her curvaceous body ignited the flames in his heart. Let's go to bed. Lu Qingmei's emotions were stirred up, and she said softly. All right. Tang Zheng picked her up by the waist, and walked straight to the bed. Perhaps it was because the impression of that night was too deep, but Tang Zheng's heart was only filled with the most primitive desire. Lu Qingmei was gently placed on the bed. She stared at him and said, I originally thought that I would never see you again. I never thought that you would save me again. This is the will of the heavens. Right, this is the will of the heavens. In the future, you are not allowed to leave without saying goodbye. Otherwise I will spank your butt. Tang Zheng said as he slapped her butt. She cried out in surprise and pouted. Tang Zheng, you've changed compared to before. Is that so? How come I didn't notice? Tang Zheng was shocked. It seemed that his personality had changed greatly compared to before. The indecisiveness in his personality had decreased by quite a bit, and he had gained a kind of decisiveness. Could it be because I absorbed the dragon qi? If it was before, even if he and Lu Qingmei's relationship was already natural, he would not be so proactive. This was indeed because of the dragon qi. Of course, on the other hand, it was also because his cultivation was getting higher and higher. That kind of temperament that came from the bottom of his heart had undergone a tremendous change. Moreover, his attitude towards many rules in real life had also changed. In the past, he would still fuss over the matters between himself and women. For example, he already had Feng Shishir. If something happened between him and Lu Qingmei, wouldn't it conflict with the rules of society? However, at this moment, the feeling in his heart had become very calm. There was no choice or conflict. Instead, he let nature take its course and did things according to his own heart. Perhaps this was the nature of many men's genes being stimulated. Since ancient times, men would be a little more domineering in this aspect, and the average man's achievements were too small, so his nature in this aspect was suppressed. As Tang Zheng's cultivation grew higher, his nature in this aspect was liberated. Seeing the confusion in Tang Zheng's eyes, Lu Qingmei smiled and hooked her arms around his neck. She took the initiative to go up to him and said, But I like this change very much. You're really starting to mature. I'm not a little man. You're a little man. You're even younger than me. Lu Qingmei also felt a sense of absurdity in her heart. Logically speaking, she wouldn't be interested in a little man who was a few years younger than her, let alone fall in love with him. However, the reality was so wonderful. The impossible really did happen. Was this a miracle? Yes. Lu Qingmei was sure that this was a miracle. A miracle was the will of the heavens. Since it was the will of the heavens, then she would follow the will of the heavens and accept this wonderful feeling. How am I small? I'm very big, Tang Zheng said with a mischievous smile. Very big? How come I don't see it? Lu Qingmei obviously knew what he meant. She deliberately put on an expression of disbelief and said, If you dare to doubt me, then I'll let you see if it's big or not. Tang Zheng grabbed her hand and guided it to a place. What are you doing? Wow, it's really big. Lu Qingmei obviously knew what she was touching. It was really big. Her breathing couldn't help but quicken. Next, I'm going to see if yours is big or not. What are you doing? Lu Qingmei deliberately exclaimed, refusing to welcome him. Soon, the sound of fighting turned into the sound of panting, rolling in the waves and filling the room with the beauty of spring. At the same time, Sawada Ichiro had already obtained the photo of Tang Zheng from Jiangchuan Yuanya. He immediately went to find Long Tingyu. Long Tingyu had already finished the operation and was lying on the hospital bed, breathing heavily. Although he had saved his life, His injuries were not something that could be healed in a short period of time. When Sawada Ichiro walked in, he found Long Tingyu staring blankly at the snow-white ceiling. This matter was a huge blow to Long Tingyu. He did not expect that he would lose to an unknown person, and almost die at that. Young Master Long, is this the Tangjing you were talking about? Sawada Ichiro took out his phone and showed it to Long Tingyu. Long Tingyu's eyes immediately burst out with sparks. With a sinister expression he said, "It's him. I want to burn his bones and scatter his ashes." Sawada Ichiro was stunned. He did not expect that these two Tangjung were actually the same person. This way, it would save him a lot of trouble and deal with this Tangjung once and for all. "I want him to die immediately." "I understand, young Master Long. You take care of your injuries. I promise you that he won't see the sun the day after tomorrow," Sawada Ichiro said with a murderous aura. At dawn, Tangjung opened his eyes and stretched his waist. He found that the beauty in his arms was sleeping soundly. Last night, the two of them had been tormenting each other for most of the night. Last time, Lu Qingmei had a relationship with Tangjung under the stimulation of drugs. In fact, she did not experience the subtle feeling of it. This time, in order to make up for it, she had a second chance with Tangjung, and could be considered to have truly tasted the flavor. Although she was slightly older than Tangjung, her experience in this matter was far inferior to Tangjung's. Just as Tangjung was about to get out of bed, Lu Qingmei woke up and swam up like a fish, tightly hugging his waist. Her naked body stuck to Tangjung, like a clingy little woman. "I'll go make breakfast. You can continue sleeping for a while," Tangjung said softly. Lu Qingmei lazily shook her head and said, "No, I want you to continue lying down with me." "Hee, alright, I'll lie down with you." Tangjung simply crawled back into bed. The two fiery bodies were entangled together. That soul-stirring and graceful body made Tangjung surge. "Don't let your imagination run wild. Last night, you tormented me until I don't have any strength. I don't want to be weak in the middle of the day," Lu Qingmei said. "Alright, I'll listen to you." Tangjung's big hands wandered around her body, but there was no substantial invasion. Lu Qingmei enjoyed this kind of caress. She slightly closed her eyes and picked up the phone on the bedside to turn it on. Ring, ring, ring. A burst of urgent ringtone sounded. Lu Qingmei looked at the caller ID and unhappily frowned. She hesitated for a moment before pressing the answer button. "Lu Qingmei, where are you? What did you do last night? How did young Master Long get injured? You've caused our company's order to be cancelled. You have to take responsibility. Do you understand?" A roar sounded out. It was particularly ear-piercing. Hearing this, Tangjung frowned and flew into a rage. This was the voice of the big-bellied man from yesterday. Lu Qingmei waved her hand at Tangjung, indicating for him to calm down. Her voice returned to its cold state and said, "What does Long Tingyu's injury have to do with me? You have ill intentions. It's a good thing that your order is cancelled. It's best if your company goes bankrupt as well." The other party was stunned for a moment. Obviously, he did not expect Lu Qingmei to answer him like this. He paused for a moment, then raised his voice and roared. "Lu Qingmei, do you know what you're talking about? Be careful, or I'll fire you." "It's more like I'll fire you. I don't want to do it anymore." "Where did you come from? Scram back to where you came from." The big-bellied man was stunned. It took him a long time to react. He said angrily, "Who is young Master Long? You dare to hurt young Master Long?" Pow! Lu Qingmei immediately hung up the phone. She did not want to waste any more time with him. She said indignantly, "This person is too annoying. I was really blind to work at his company back then. Last night, he was clearly in cahoots with Long Tingyu. We can't let him go just like that." Tangjung was very angry that he dared to harm his woman. Lu Qingmei patted his chest and said, "Forget it, he has offended Long Tingyu this time, so he will not have a good time. I think his company is really going to go bankrupt." Seeing Lu Qingmei's persuasion, Tangjung stopped pursuing the matter and said, "He just said that Long Tingyu is not dead. This person's life is really big." Lu Qingmei heaved a sigh of relief and said, "It's good that you're not dead. This way, you'll have less trouble." Tangjung shook his head and laughed bitterly. With Long Tingyu's personality, if he did not die, there might not be less trouble, but no matter how long Tingyu wanted to play, he would accompany him to the end. However, if Long Tingyu wanted to take revenge, he might come for Lu Qingmei. This was what he was most worried about. Sister Mei has a profound Yin body, and her physique is even better than a pure Yin body. I don't know if she's suitable for cultivation, but since she's my woman, why don't we let her cultivate as well? Tang Zheng had an idea. Although cultivators were not safe right now, he was even more worried that Lu Qingmei did not have the slightest ability to protect herself. Furthermore, Fang Shishir was also a cultivator. If he did not bring Lu Qingmei along this path, wouldn't it be unfair? However, he was not prepared to pass on Fang Shishir's cultivation technique to Lu Qingmei. He wanted to find another suitable cultivation technique for her, so he could only put this matter aside for the time being. Sister Mei, you stay at home today and don't go out. I'll go take care of this matter. Tang Zheng warned. No, I'll go with you. Tang Zheng shook his head and said, be obedient, I can solve the problem by myself. If you go, I'll be worried instead. Lu Qingmei was conflicted in her heart, but she could only compromise. After the two of them had breakfast, Tang Zheng went to the underground of the imperial city alone, and brought out Xiaobai. This little guy seemed to like to stay with the golden dragon, and was reluctant to part with it. Then he left Xiaobai at Lu Qingmei's house and told Xiaobai to protect Lu Qingmei. Lu Qingmei did not know about Xiaobai's ability, but when she saw such a cute puppy, she really liked it. She promised that with this little guy by her side, she would not leave the house today. Only then did Tang Zheng feel relieved and go back to school. When he walked to the school gate, he saw two people walking towards him with unfriendly expressions. Chapter 327. Sawada Ichiro and Jiangchuan Harano were waiting at the school gate. When they saw that Tang Zheng had returned, the two of them went up to him at the same time and blocked Tang Zheng's path. Everyone knew that Ghent was a patriotic pine. Tang Zheng's pupils shrank. This pair of master and disciple actually came to the school directly. They were really in a hurry. He couldn't be more clear about their intentions. Seeing the crowd at the school gate, Tang Zheng was the first to break the silence and said, "Shall we find a quiet place?" Sawada Ichiro was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Tang Zheng to be so calm, and even take the initiative to ask to go to a quiet place. Whether the other party was pretending to be stupid or was really stupid, Sawada Ichiro accepted the suggestion. The three of them walked towards a secluded alley in the distance. At the same time, Sawada Ichiro was also silently observing Tang Zheng. Indeed, as Jiangchuan Harano said, this kid didn't have any inner force fluctuations. If it wasn't for the fact that Jiangchuan Harano lost to him, Sawada Ichiro would definitely treat Tang Zheng as an ordinary person. This kid is a little strange and has guts. It seems like he has something up his sleeve. I wonder what he's up to. Sawada Ichiro was secretly puzzled. He looked at Jiangchuan Harano and the master and disciple exchanged a look. Jiangchuan Harano was shocked. Is this Tang Zheng stupid? Can't he see that my master is a master? No matter what tricks he plays, he can't do anything in front of my master. Moreover, he offended young Master Long, so he's definitely going to die. Jiangchuan Harano couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As long as Tang Zheng died, his Bushido club could continue to recruit new members and complete his spy mission. Before they reached the entrance of the alley, they saw a person step in front of Tang Zheng and asked with a gloomy face, "Are you Tang Zheng?" Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Today, everyone ran into each other. Tang Zheng was shocked. The person blocking his path was actually the demon god. However, the demon god had only obtained some of Takashi's fragmented memories and did not recognize Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng had used his illusions to disguise himself in many battles with the demon god. So the demon god did not know that the person he hated so much was standing in front of him. Takashi, why are you looking for me?" Tang Zheng feigned ignorance and asked. "Of course there's something I need from you." The demon god said coldly, and Jiangchuan Yuanya was furious when he saw another troublemaker coming out of nowhere. "Who are you? Get out of the way and don't interfere with our work." The demon god's eyes turned cold, like the cold wind of winter, making Jiangchuan Yuanya shudder. He subconsciously took a step back and exclaimed, "What are you going to do?" The other party clearly did not have any inner strength fluctuations, but he had such a terrifying gaze and aura. It was truly inconceivable. Sawada Ichiro was also shocked. He took a step forward and stood in front of his disciple. He glared at the demon god and asked, "Who are you?" The demon god looked at him disdainfully and said, "A few martial artists dare to be noisy again. Today, I'm going to deal with all of you." Seeing that the other party was so arrogant, Sawada Ichiro was furious. He subconsciously thought that the other party was Tang Zheng's accomplice. He said angrily, "How dare you look down on the warriors of our island nation? Today, I will bury you with him." Killing one was killing a pair was also killing. Sawada Ichiro did not care about one more ghost under his blade. Moreover, being able to kill Wuxia like his senior was something he had yearned for a long time. It seemed that today, he could finally fulfill his wish. The reason why the demon god came to find Tang Zheng was because when Ding Xiaowan mentioned Tang Zheng to him, he had the thought of killing Tang Zheng and absorbing his blood. Yesterday, he was busy cultivating and did not have the time, so he came to find Tang Zheng early in the morning. As expected, he was found by him, but he did not expect that there would be two more martial warriors beside him. However, this was insignificant. With one more martial warriors absorbing his blood, wouldn't he be able to recover even more of his strength? Therefore, he naturally did not have the slightest bit of good expression towards Sawada Ichiro and his disciple. Instead, his face was filled with killing intent. Tang Zheng did not expect the two of them to meet. It was really interesting. He was still thinking about how to deal with Sawada Ichiro later. After all, he could not see through Sawada Ichiro's cultivation. And according to the other party's aura, it was very likely that he was in the pre-celestial stage. Facing the pre-celestial stage, Tang Zheng did not have complete confidence in killing the other party, but he also had absolute confidence that he could protect his own life, which was why he walked towards this small alley without hesitation. Now that he saw that Sawada Ichiro and the demon god were about to fight, it was simply a pleasant surprise. He looked at both sides calmly. He saw that both sides were staring at each other with murderous intent, and they both regarded each other as Tang Zheng's accomplices. Tang Zheng also realized this. He immediately jumped into the alley with the tip of his foot and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The demon god turned his head to look and was about to chase after him, but Sawada Ichiro attacked the demon god's back with one move. It seemed that this pair of masters had a tradition, and both liked this kind of sneak attack. How could the demon god be afraid? He hit Sawada Ichiro's palm with his backhand, and with the help of the rebound force, he rose into the air and landed in the alley, blocking Tang Zheng's way. Sawada Ichiro took half a step back, horrified. The strength of the other party was far beyond his imagination. His face had become particularly serious and he growled, "Don't think about escaping." Whoosh. With a flash of his figure, he chased into the alley. Jiang Chuanyuanyi also followed closely behind. Sawada Ichiro chased into the alley, but did not directly attack Tang Zheng. Instead, he attacked the demon god. Obviously, in his eyes, the demon god was the biggest threat. Furthermore, the demon god was the backer behind Tang Zheng. Only by eliminating the demon god would he have the chance to kill Tang Zheng and fulfill Long Tingyu's wish. The demon god was also a proud person. Although he had stopped Tang Zheng, when he saw Sawada Ichiro's crazy attack, he resolutely put down Tang Zheng and fought fiercely with Sawada Ichiro. Tang Zheng calmly crossed his arms and watched the show, but he did not take the opportunity to slip away. If he had slipped away, the two of them would not have fought to the death like this. Right now, it was just the right time for them to bite each other. And Tang Zheng could just sit back and reap the benefits. The demon god was unscrupulous. He had long regarded these people as his prey. Although it was broad daylight, he did not restrain himself at all, and directly used his magic. A bloody mist spread out from his body and filled the alley. Sawada Ichiro and his master suddenly realized that there was a lot of bloody mist in front of them. They were shocked and could not help but exclaim, "What's going on?" When Jiang Chuanyuanyi saw this, he actually felt a kind of fear that came from the bottom of his heart. Seeing the bloody mist spreading towards him, he hurriedly retreated, but the bloody mist seemed to have a mind of its own and quickly surrounded him. Jiang Chuanyuanyi immediately coughed loudly and shouted, "Master, there's something wrong with this mist." I feel so uncomfortable. Jiang Chuan Yuan Yi kept scratching his skin, as if there were tens of thousands of insects crawling inside his skin. It was extremely itchy and unbearable. Hold your breath and use your cultivation to force the bloody mist out. Sawada Ichiro's cultivation was more profound, so the bloody mist did not cause any harm to him at first. But when he saw his disciple's miserable appearance, he understood the power of the bloody mist. His back was covered in cold sweat, and he exclaimed, "What kind of evil martial art is this? How come I've never heard of it?" You're just a martial artist. Of course you haven't heard of it. This is the demon god's demon blood devouring technique. It's not something a martial artist like you can resist, the demon god said proudly. Demon blood devouring technique? Demon god? Sawada Ichiro was shocked. He had never heard of such a technique, and the so-called demon god had never heard of such a title. Who was this person? How could he be so evil? Time did not allow him to think carefully. Under the pervasive bloody mist, he accidentally inhaled a few mouthfuls. His body was a little itchy, and his mind was shaken. It was as if his soul was about to break out of his shell. This was a feeling that Sawada Ichiro had never felt before. It made him feel unbelievable, but it also made him extremely frightened. He felt a fatal threat. This time he was originally full of confidence, but now he was in such a mess, and his life was in danger. It was a great shame. He subconsciously looked at Tang Zheng, but saw that Tang Zheng was safe and sound. Although there was a bloody mist around him, it did not hurt him at all. Sawada Ichiro suddenly realized that they were together. Otherwise, with Tang Zheng's cultivation, how could he avoid the bloody mist's attack? It must be because the other party had the corresponding secret method. No, this demon god is a real master. Although I haven't been defeated yet, I can't hold on for more than 100 moves. If I continue to stay, I will only die. Run, I must run. I will find a way to take revenge later. Sawada Ichiro made up his mind. Although he saw his disciple lying on the ground twitching, he had no way to save him. He roared, and the katana in his hand glowed with cold light. He slashed at the demon god and shouted, "Kill!" The blade light turned into petals, like cherry blossoms falling from the sky. They scattered the bloody mist in front of him, and went straight to the top of the demon god's head. A look of surprise flashed in the demon god's eyes. He did not expect the other party to have such a fierce move. He took a small step back, and then prepared to attack with all his strength. However, as soon as he took a small step back, Sawada Ichiro turned around and fled. He rushed out of the alley, ignoring Jiangchuan Ichiro on the ground. Tang Zheng did not expect Sawada Ichiro to be so decisive. It was too late for him to stop him. Looking at the fleeing silhouette of the other party, the demon god hesitated for a moment. In the end, he did not give chase. Instead, he directly grabbed Jiangchuan Yuanya on the ground and bit his neck, continuously sucking his blood. Immediately, the demon god's body emitted waves of red light. In the blink of an eye, Jiangchuan Hirano's blood was sucked dry and he died. He never thought that he would die like this in a foreign country. The demon god turned around and stared at Tang Zheng covetously. He said with interest, "Hey, you didn't run away? Could it be that you were scared, silly? Heh. You're just a coward, yet Ding Xiaowan said that you're so powerful. However, you're a warrior after all, so sucking your blood is more useful than sucking an ordinary person's." Suddenly, the demon god's eyes turned cold. He looked at the blood mist around Tang Zheng in shock. The blood mist was completely isolated from Tang Zheng's body. He could not help but exclaim, "How is this possible?" Chapter 328. It was indeed impossible. The demon god's demon blood soul devouring technique was extremely lethal to ordinary people or martial artists. Furthermore, when trained to the extreme, it could indeed devour the opponent's soul. No advertisement, this was an extremely vicious cultivation technique, but it had a fatal weakness. It was not very useful to cultivators, because the innate chi of cultivators had a natural resistance to the blood mist. Of course, if the martial artist was a person with a high cultivation, they would not be afraid of the blood mist. However, it was obvious that Tang Zheng was not such a person, but he was safe and sound. The demon god was immediately shocked. He looked at Tang Zheng with his mouth agape and asked, "How did you do it? How can you not be afraid of my demon blood soul devouring technique?" Tang Zheng snorted. Just as he was about to answer, he saw a figure quickly approaching. In the blink of an eye, his heart trembled, and he immediately swallowed the words he was about to blurt out. Tang Zheng's entire body tensed up. He became especially vigilant, even more vigilant than when facing the demon god. This was because the person in front of him was his greatest enemy, Marshall. He did not know why Marshall had come, but he was simply haunting him. Last night, Marshall had investigated the cause of death of Shen Kuan and Meng Yao, and from the information provided by the Li Palace, she found out that the deceased seemed to have a grudge with Tang Zheng, and had met with Tang Zheng and Takashi the day before. She wanted to come to Yenqing University to ask the two of them about the specific situation. However, he did not expect that when he was not far from the school gate, he would feel a fluctuation in the air. This was definitely the result of a battle between experts. As a result, Marshall rushed over without hesitation, and coincidentally saw that there was still a faint blood mist floating in the alley. Furthermore, there was a corpse lying on the ground, and Tang Zheng and Takashi were facing each other. Marshall subconsciously shouted, Takashi, Tang Zheng." The demon god subconsciously turned his head to look, his pupils constricting. Wasn't this the martial artist who had stopped him from descending into this world? When the enemy met, their eyes turned red, and the demon god's eyes burned with an even stronger killing intent than before. However, Wu did not notice it for a moment, and instead quickly arrived in front of the demon god, and asked suspiciously, "What's going on?" Without speaking, only a cold blood blade answered her. With a flash of red light, the demon god stabbed the blood blade into Marshall's lower abdomen at lightning speed. Immediately, a look of disbelief burst out from Marshall's eyes. He subconsciously used his roaring flame blade to slash at the demon god. The demon god retreated, and the attack missed. Marshall lowered her head to look at the wound, only to see blood flowing out. Ever since she started her career, she had never suffered such a serious injury. And this attack was launched by Takashi. She looked at Takashi in disbelief and said, "You? Who exactly are you? Why are you so powerful?" If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have ended up like this after I was born. You're that Wuzong person, right? Since that's the case, I'll start with you today," the demon god said murderously. Marshall suddenly realized. "You are the demon god? That's me. It's your honor to die at my hands today. You're a cultivator, I'm going to kill you." She never thought that she would meet the demon god so unexpectedly. She originally thought that she would spend some effort to investigate his whereabouts. But he appeared in front of her just like that, and even heavily injured her. "Haha, you still want to kill me like this? It's more like I want to kill you. Go and die." The demon god fiercely pounced towards Marshall. Seeing that, Tang Zheng did not save him. Marshall was his enemy. If the demon god could kill her, it would be equivalent to helping him. Marshall was not an idiot. Back then, she was not a match for the demon god, let alone now that she was heavily injured. She was filled with regret and immediately retreated. However, the demon god's movements were obviously very fast. In the blink of an eye, the blood blade had pierced through Marshall's chest. If it had gone a few inches further, Marshall's heart would have been pierced through. Tang Zheng's heart couldn't help but beat faster. As long as Marshall died, he would have one less problem. Whiz! The sound of something breaking through the air arrived like a flash of lightning, heading straight for the demon god's head. This aura was extremely sharp. The demon god raised his head and waved his blood blade. With a crisp clang, a cold light shot into the wall beside him. With a bang, fragments flew everywhere as an iron arrow buzzed and trembled nonstop. Marshall took this opportunity and quickly retreated, once again distancing himself from the demon god. Tang Zheng looked at the iron arrow and was extremely angry. Just who was it that ruined his plans? A graceful figure descended from the sky. She held an iron bow in her hand, which was slightly smaller than the heaven-shocking bow. The bow was engraved with beautiful patterns, like a handicraft. However, no one would doubt the lethality of this iron bow, because the arrow just now had already displayed its might. Furthermore, It was held in Li Xiaotian's hands. Li Xiaotian's mouth curled up into a faint smile. He looked at the demon god and said, "So you are the demon god." After he finished speaking, he glanced at Tang Zheng with a smile that was not a smile. Tang Zheng's head moved. Why was it this black-bellied woman again? Last time in the 10,000 huge mountains, he had finally gotten rid of her with great difficulty, and had even exposed his identity as a cultivator in front of her. Why did she appear in the capital so coincidentally? Tang Zheng was very clear that as long as the other party appeared, things would not be simple. Her thoughts were even more complicated than martial arts, and she was good at scheming and moody. "Who are you?" The demon god stared at Li Xiaotian and asked in bewilderment. "I'm just a passerby. I saw that you guys were fighting so enthusiastically, so I came to join in the fun," Li Xiaotian said while beaming. Joining in the fun will cost you your life. Since you are also a martial artist, then I will kill you without hesitation." The demon god's body trembled, and he used the demon blood-devouring soul technique again, causing the blood mist to fill the air. Although Li Xiaotian had never seen the power of the blood mist, since he knew that the other party was a cultivator, he directly believed that the blood mist must be very dangerous. Thus, she leaped and flew directly over the demon god's head, her fingers slightly hooked. Clang! With a crisp sound, the iron arrow that was nailed into the wall flew out by itself, turning around and shooting towards the demon god. Spell! The demon god was shocked, and even Tang Zheng could not help but widen his eyes. The iron arrow had clearly shot into the wall, so why did it fly out by itself? However, both of them rejected this idea at the same time. This was not a spell, because Li Xiaotian was a martial artist, so it was impossible for her to use a spell. It was because there was a thin thread at the end of the iron sword, and the other end of the thin thread was in Li Xiaotian's hand. Therefore, although the iron arrow was shot out, it was still under the control of Li Xiaotian, so it could be reused. The iron arrow shot towards the demon god, but the demon god did not retreat. Instead, he advanced, and with a flash of red light, the blood blade slashed at the iron arrow, and with another slash, he directly cut into the void at the end of the arrow. An extremely subtle sound of air vibrations was heard, which was the effect of the thin thread breaking. Without control, the iron arrow fell to the ground, losing its threat. The demon god snorted disdainfully. "Petty tricks." He waved his hands forward, and the blood mist surged like a ferocious beast, spreading towards Li Xiaotian. Li Xiaotian chuckled. He was not afraid, but instead hid behind Tang Zheng in a flash and said softly, "It's all up to you now." Tang Zheng felt a headache coming on. This woman really did not have good intentions. She actually brought the flames of war to him. Facing the attack of the demon god, he could not possibly ignore it. In addition, Wu was still eyeing him covetously from not too far away. If he used the War Soul Sword or Heaven-Shocking Bow, then Wu would definitely see through his identity. For the time being, he did not want to draw the anger of the martial sect onto himself. Thus, he could only use his bare hands to push forward with both palms. Whoosh whoosh. The wind from his palm whistled, blocking the blood mist. The demon god was puzzled. Why wasn't this brat afraid of his move? How did you do it? Tang Zheng was extremely vexed. Please don't dwell on this question. And don't speak carelessly. If you speak too much, it will be bad if you arouse Wu's suspicion. Thus, he took the initiative to attack, forcing the demon god to shut up. Brat, you're courting death. Seeing that, the demon god roared nonstop. Although he did not know why this brat was so strange and different from the rest, he still had absolute confidence in killing him. Immediately, the two of them started to fight in the midst of the withering blood. Fortunately, the blood mist was everywhere, and Wu could not see the details, so he did not suspect Tang Zheng's identity. But even so, she was still shocked. She originally thought that an insignificant fellow actually had such strength to be able to tangle with the demon god for so long. Actually, Tang Zheng's cultivation was obviously not a match for the demon god. Furthermore, he did not have the help of the War Soul Sword or the Heaven-Shocking Bow, so he was even less of a match for the demon god. However, he was a cultivator after all, and the demon god had always treated Tang Zheng as a warrior. As a result, Tang Zheng was able to capture a lot of useful information from the trajectory of the demon god's attacks, and was able to avoid some fatal injuries. However, even so, Tang Zheng was still in a sorry state as he fled in all directions. Li Xiaotian, on the other hand, held onto his iron bow and watched the scene with interest. He praised in his heart, Tang Zheng is really not human. It has only been a while since I last saw him, and his cultivation has obviously been injured by another level. Could it be that cultivators are so powerful when they cultivate? Didn't they say that the spirit chi of heaven and earth in this world was thin, and that the cultivation of cultivators was very slow? Why is this brat so ferocious, as if he has eaten aphrodisiac? Of course, Tang Zheng did not know what Li Xiaotian was thinking, but without a weapon, it was equivalent to him tying his own feet, and it was impossible for him to defeat the demon god. The demon god's attacks became fiercer and fiercer. Tang Zheng was already starting to get injured. He could not help but fly into a rage and shouted, Li Xiaotian, do you want to just watch me get killed? The corner of Li Xiaotian's mouth curled up. He thought to himself, who told you to steal my heaven-shocking bow? Humph, this bit of suffering is just interest, it's too insignificant. When Marshall heard this, he was inexplicably shocked. This Tang Zheng actually knew Li Xiaotian. One must know that as the holy maiden of the Li Palace, Li Xiaotian could not easily leave the Li Palace. There were very few people who knew her, much less men. The people of Li Palace had an innate hostility towards men. Tang Zheng, give me my things and I'll help you, Li Xiaotian said with a smile. You're taking advantage of the situation. Aya, you're really smart. You even found out about this. Li Xiaotian exaggeratedly covered her mouth and exclaimed. Chapter 329. If I die, you really won't be able to find that thing for the rest of your life. Tell the pavilion master, Tang Zheng said. Li Xiaotian frowned and muttered to himself. That's right, that means you can't die yet. But you're so cunning, I helped you. And you want to act shamelessly again. What should I do? Tang Zheng said snappily. Do you want to help or not? It was definitely not normal for Li Xiaotian to appear here. Tang Zheng smelled a conspiracy, and why would Marshall appear so coincidentally? There must be a demon behind this abnormality. He suspected that all of this was most likely related to Li Xiaotian. This woman's thoughts were too complicated, and ordinary people would not be able to guess them. But no matter what she was planning, he could not reveal his identity as a cultivator under Marshall's nose. Seeing that the demon god was attacking again, Tang Zheng did not resist anymore. His hands drooped down, and looked at Li Xiaotian provocatively. Haha, die. The demon god laughed sinisterly. The blood blade flashed with a red light, and with killing intent, it pierced towards Tang Zheng's chest. Marshall was shocked by this scene, but she could not protect herself, so she could not do anything. Li Xiaotian was so angry that he blew his eyebrows and glared, and said angrily, Tang Zheng, you're shameless. However, the movements of his hands did not stop. He knocked an arrow on his bow, and 3 arrows were knocked on the bowstring. Wang. The bowstring trembled, and 3 arrows pierced through the air. From this point, it could be seen that Li Xiaotian was definitely an expert in archery. No wonder she had such a soft spot for the heaven-shocking bow. The demon god could have killed Tang Zheng with this attack, but he could not ignore the 3 iron arrows behind him. With an unwilling roar, he turned around and faced the 3 iron arrows. The 3 iron arrows attacked from the top, middle, and bottom, and were incomparably sharp. At the same time, Tang Zheng was not idle either. He pounced towards the demon god, and the attacks from the front and back made the demon god even angrier. To think that he would be in such a sorry state by a few martial warriors, it was simply a great humiliation. Clang, clang, clang. The 3 arrows were blocked, but then Li Xiaotian's hands moved, quickly pulling the bowstring. Every time she released the bowstring, an iron arrow would shoot out, and in the blink of an eye, she had unleashed a chain of arrows, 9 iron arrows, one after another, covering the sky and the earth, enveloping the demon god. With a wolf in front and a tiger behind him, the demon god's back. I'm going to kill all of you martial warriors. None of you will survive. Bang! Tang Zheng slapped the back of the demon god, causing the demon god to stagger forward. The rain of arrows that filled the sky also arrived on time. The demon god waved his blood blade, and a wall of blood light interweaved into a blood light to block the rain of arrows. Tangjung to say. Tangjung to say. Tangjung to of Tang. Who is it that came to the capital to cause trouble? Suddenly, a heaven-shaking roar exploded, and a person descended from the sky. The demon god was shocked. He raised his head to look at the person who came. He immediately removed the wall of light and turned to escape. Where do you think you're going? The person chased after them like a shadow, and the two of them disappeared in the blink of an eye. The situation was constantly changing. No one had expected that a peerless expert would suddenly appear and actually scare the demon god away. With a glance, Tangjung recognized the person. The other party was actually Yan Qishan, a dignified expert of the Great Master Realm. Tangjung did not want to have too much contact with Yan Qishan, so he turned around and walked out of the alley, passing by Wu. Li Xiaotian immediately chased after him, and when he passed by Wu he said, "You are injured, quickly go and heal your injuries, otherwise, how will you deal with cultivators in the future?" Wu's face darkened, and he walked away without saying a word. Li Xiaotian chased after Tangjung and asked, "Why are you running so fast? Are you trying to get rid of me again?" "I still have to go to class," Tangjung said coldly. I almost forgot that you're still a student, but before you go to class, return my things to me." Li Xiaotian spread out his hands and said, "What do I owe you?" "Heaven-shocking bow." "Didn't I say it before? I left it in the prehistoric heavenly tomb. If you want it, go find it." You're still trying to lie to me. Although I don't know how you brought the heaven-shocking bow out, I'm sure that the heaven-shocking bow is in your hands. Hurry up and give it to me." "The heaven-shocking bow isn't yours. Why should I give it to you?" Li Xiaotian was furious, but after thinking about it, there was no way he could force him like this, so he could only take it slow. Since he couldn't return so quickly after coming out this time, "I'll stay by your side and find clues about the heaven-shocking bow." Thus, a cunning smile appeared in her eyes as she said, "I've never been to school before. It wasn't easy for me to come to university this time, so I'll go and take a look as well. I'll accompany you to class." Li Xiaotian disassembled the iron bow into its components, then placed it into the bag on his back along with the iron arrow, and said, "Let's go, lead the way." Tangjung could not help but roll his eyes and said, "Who promised you that I would bring you to class? Since you don't give me the heaven-shocking bow, I'll follow you until you give it to me." Li Xiaotian shrugged and said, how could Tangjung be intimidated by her formation? He said, "If you want to follow me, then follow me." With that, he strode towards the campus, but before he could take a few steps, he was stopped by Yan Qishan, who had returned. He smiled faintly and greeted, "Tangjung, long time no see." "Long time no see. Did you catch up to him?" Yan Qishan shook his head. "Cultivators are indeed cunning," he escaped. Li Xiaotian agreed upon hearing that. "Yes, cultivators are extremely cunning, they are simply despicable." As he spoke, he looked at Tangjung as if he was referring to something. Tangjung obviously knew that she was scolding him indirectly, so he pretended not to hear it. Yan Qishan did not understand the meaning of this sentence, and smiled at Li Xiaotian. "Holy Maiden, since you have come to the capital, our Yan family should do our part as a host. If the Holy Maiden does not mind, can you move to the Dragon Elephant Mountain?" Hearing that, Tangjung guessed that the Yan family must have a good relationship with the Li Palace. If Li Xiaotian followed Yan Qishan and left, he would simply clap his hands and cheer. But Li Xiaotian clearly did not let him do as he wished. She shook her head without hesitation and refused. "I still have things to do. I want to follow this guy." She pointed at Tangjung. Yan Qishan was greatly astonished. He did not know why the Holy Maiden of the Li Palace had such a complicated relationship with Tangjung. This little brat really could not be underestimated. Moreover, from the information brought back by Yan Qingyi, Tangjung had contact with the martial organization. At such a young age, he actually had contact with two of the three most mysterious organizations in the world. It was truly hard to imagine. Yan Qishan could not help but look at Tangjung a few more times, but he found that he was becoming more and more unable to see through him. "Li Xiaotian, the Yan family is a large family. They invited you with great hospitality. It is not appropriate for you to not give face." Tang Zheng said. Li Xiaotian rolled her eyes at him and said, "Do you need to care about my matters? Where I go is my freedom. Outsiders have no right to interfere." Yan Qishan immediately smiled and said, "What the holy maiden said is extremely correct. The Yan family naturally will not interfere with the holy maiden's freedom. If the holy maiden has free time, please come to Longxiang Mountain for a chat." After he finished speaking, he deeply looked at Tang Zheng and sighed in his heart. This little brat's courage was really not ordinary. He actually dared to ridicule Li Xiaotian. Just what was the relationship between the two of them? Seeing that Yan Qishan had left, Tang Zheng continued to walk towards the campus. Li Xiaotian was like a burden, blindly following him. The combination of the two attracted the gazes of many people. In the school, Tang Zheng could be considered a small celebrity. After all, the matter of him challenging the Bushido Society yesterday was witnessed by many people. Then it spread by word of mouth, becoming the topic of many people's leisure conversations. Moreover, the scandal between Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang was also spread like wildfire, making many male students jealous. What was hateful was that this guy's luck with women seemed to be a bit too good. This time he actually strolled around the campus with another beauty that did not lose out to Yi Dingdang. At this time, many people were about to go crazy. This brat was eating from the bowl and looking at the pot. Moreover, he was doing it openly, without any concealment. He was too arrogant. Many people looked at Tang Zheng with eyes full of hostility. I think your popularity is really bad. Look at the way others look at you, as if they can't wait to eat you alive." Li Xiaotian teased with interest. Tang Zheng said, "Isn't it all because of you?" He coldly snorted and ignored her. When he walked into the teaching building, the bell rang for class. Tang Zheng walked towards the classroom, and immediately, the entire classroom's attention was attracted. The students of Archaeology Class 1 had complicated feelings towards Tang Zheng. There was nothing they could do about it. The things that Tang Zheng had done were too shocking, especially that confrontation with the police. Many people in this class had seen it with their own eyes, and yesterday's one-on-one incident had made him even more famous. The archaeology department was the smallest department in the entire school, and most of them were bookworms. For a long time, their presence in the school had not been strong. However, this year a monstrous figure had appeared. Many seniors were asking them about the deeds of Tang Zheng. Many people wanted to see the number one person in the archaeology department with their own eyes. Yes, Tang Zheng was already recognized as the number one person in the archaeology department. No one doubted this, because he was too eye-catching, far exceeding the scope of common knowledge of ordinary students. Therefore, most of the students did not have any ill feelings towards Tang Zheng. Instead, they felt that it was an honor for the archaeology department to have such a fierce person. It was an honor to be able to increase the reputation of the archaeology department. However, today's scene had once again shocked their minds. Everyone watched in disbelief as a top-notch beauty followed Tang Zheng into the classroom and followed him to his seat. The members of Class 502 had already occupied Tang Zheng's seat. Tang Zheng walked straight over and sat down, while Sinosaurus and the other two were still staring blankly at Li Xiaotian. Li Xiaotian pointed at Sinosaurus and said, "Stand up and sit aside." "Why should I give you my seat?" Tang Zheng asked unhappily. "If I don't sit in his seat, where should I sit?" Li Xiaotian asked. Sinosaurus laughed. "It's all right, Beauty, please sit." He quickly stood up. "Beauty, are you from our class? Why haven't I seen you before?" "She's not a student, so just ignore her. She's just a burden," Tang Zheng ridiculed. Chapter 330. Tang Zheng, don't spout nonsense. "I've never been to school. I'm not a burden," Li Xiaotian corrected him. Everyone around them perked up their ears. When they heard that Li Xiaotian had never been to school, they all looked at him in disbelief. After all, Li Xiaotian was about the same age as the others, and had an outstanding aura. "It's exactly because I've never been to school that I want to experience it. This is the best university in the country. I'd like to attend one of your classes." "Welcome, welcome," Sinosaurus said excitedly while winking at Tang Zheng. He seemed to be asking him to tell the truth. Where did he go to kidnap such a beautiful girl? As for Tang Zheng's luck with women, have all the members of 502 passed away? The bespectacled man nodded and said, the specific author of this painting is no longer known. However, it is inferred that it was painted by a master painter 1,500 years ago. Legend has it that he saw a fairy descending from the 9 heavens, and used that as inspiration to paint this painting. This student is right. Sit down. Qi Shaowen praised. This painting has been passed down to this day. Since ancient times, there have been very few forgeries of this painting, because no one has been able to fully express the charm of the painting. In the original painting, the fairy descending to the mortal world is full of spiritual energy. It's as if a real person is standing in front of you. Wow, is it really that amazing? Do fairies really exist in this world? Many people were discussing. Qi Shaowen smiled gently, and the wrinkles on his face eased slightly. He said, some of you may think that I'm exaggerating, but I want to tell you that this is not an exaggeration. It's the truth. This painting is now kept in the National Museum, and is not on display. I've seen it a few times, and every time I see it, it's as if a fairy is standing in front of me. It's an indescribable feeling. Hearing his words, the crowd was even more amazed. They thought that if they were lucky enough to see this painting, it would be the greatest blessing of 3 lifetimes. Pfft, it's just a forgery. It's almost blown to the sky. Someone snorted disdainfully. This voice wasn't soft, it was crisp and penetrating. Everyone heard it. Immediately, everyone looked towards the source of the voice, and discovered that the owner of the voice was actually Li Xiaotian. Qi Shaowen's face darkened. He glared at Li Xiaotian and said, what did you say? I said, you said that the 9 Heavens Maid's painting in the National Museum is a fake. Li Xiaotian said in a shocking tone. Tang Zheng was also startled by her actions. She was really a troublemaker. He hurriedly tugged at her sleeves and said, you're not a student. Pay attention to the class and don't interrupt. He's wrong. I'm just correcting him. I have good intentions. I don't want him to continue down the wrong path. Li Xiaotian solemnly vowed. Seeing her boasting so shamelessly, Tang Zheng could only shake his head and smile bitterly. Li Xiaotian was good at lying. Her words were probably 90% false and 1% true. It was difficult to distinguish the truth from the lies. Therefore, Tang Zheng did not know why she made such a fuss. Both of you stand up. Seeing Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian whispering to each other, Qi Shaowen immediately flew into a rage. He hated it when students spouted nonsense about things they did not understand. Archaeology required rigorous spirit, not sensationalism. Moreover, she dared to say that the painting in the museum was a fake. This was equivalent to challenging his reputation. He had seen the painting and was certain that it was authentic. If this person dared to question the painting, it was the same as questioning him. How could he tolerate this? Tang Zheng was caught in the crossfire. He thought to himself, what does it have to do with me? However, he still stood up. Li Xiaotian, on the other hand, continued to sit as if nothing had happened. Why are you still sitting? Stand up. Qi Shaowen shouted in a deep voice. I corrected your mistake. Instead of thanking me, you want me to stand up. How dare you? Li Xiaotian stood up and said angrily. This sentence was so powerful that the others did not know whether to laugh or cry. Girl, I admit that you are very beautiful. However, this kind of academic problem is not something that can be solved by a face and a figure. Why do you have to spout nonsense like this? Hey, are you telling the truth or not? Tang Zheng could not figure out what was on her mind. Seeing that she was angry and did not seem to be faking it, he asked in a low voice. Of course I'm telling the truth. Do I have to lie? Li Xiaotian said angrily. Stop mumbling. Speak loudly. As a student of the archaeology department, you dare to spout such baseless nonsense. Humph, this is the first time I've seen such a thing in all my years of teaching. Qi Shaowen said angrily. Li Xiaotian could not take it anymore. She retorted loudly. Who said that I have no evidence? I said that the painting in the museum is fake. Of course it is fake. Moreover, I have real evidence. The others' interest was piqued. They stared at Li Xiaotian intently, waiting to see what she could say. Zhou Yan asked quietly, Third brother, who is this person you brought with you? Why is she so arrogant? Tang Jing shook his head and smiled bitterly. He could only wait and see. Qi Shaowen was so angry that he laughed and said, "Fine, show me your so-called real evidence. I'd like to see it for myself and broaden my horizons." "Then I'll broaden your horizons," Li Xiaotian said. "That fake painting is indeed good enough to pass off as the real thing. However, a fake is a fake. It can never replace the real thing. The imitator deliberately left a flaw in the painting. It's just that the later generations were too stupid to notice this flaw." Qi Shaowen's face flushed red again. Naturally, he was included in the list of stupid later generations. He believed that no one would be happy to be called stupid by a person who was old enough to be his granddaughter. He took a few deep breaths to suppress the anger in his heart. He asked, "What exactly is the flaw?" Tang Zheng heard Li Xiaoyan's words and could not help but believe her. She did not have to provoke an old man whom she did not know. Therefore, his interest was piqued. He wanted to know what her so-called flaw was. "Look at the bottom right corner of this painting. The jade pendant hanging from the waist has no words on it. However, the fake one has the word Li on it," Li Xiaotian said. Qi Shaowen was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed and said, "This is your so-called flaw? What a joke." At first, Deng Shaowen thought that there was a flaw in the painting when he saw how confident Qi Shaowen was. He did not expect Qi Shaowen to say something like that. The others were curious. They did not know what Qi Shaowen's laughter meant. Qi Shaowen stopped smiling and said in a low voice, "Let me tell you, your so-called flaws are all fabricated. What Li character? You're lying to those who haven't seen that painting. I've seen that painting more than 10 times. There's no Li character on that jade pendant at all." Wow. Everyone looked at Li Xiaotian with complicated gazes. It turned out that what she had said for a long time was actually a lie. However, Tang Zheng's feeling was completely different. Although Li Xiaotian was usually full of nonsense, at this moment, Tang Zheng believed that what she said was true. This was a feeling. Li Xiaotian seemed to have expected this. She said calmly, "That's why I said you're stupid. It's been 200 years and no one has discovered this flaw. Let me tell you how to verify it. Believe it or not. Go find some water and sprinkle it on the jade pendant. Later, you can see if the word Li is on it." Sprinkle water? Everyone was dumbfounded. This kind of ancient painting could be considered a national treasure. Everyone was eager to protect it. Who would be willing to sprinkle water on it? Crazy, absolutely crazy, Qi Shaowen muttered incessantly. Li Xiaotian chuckled. She did not comment. This was the first time Qi Shaowen had encountered such a situation. Perhaps it was Li Xiaoyan's confident expression that provoked him. He decided to convince the student wholeheartedly. He said, "Wait here. I'll make a phone call right away. If the so-called Li character doesn't appear, you'll fail this course." Qi Shaowen stormed out of the classroom to make the phone call. Meanwhile, the classroom was in an uproar. Chapter 331. Everyone was whispering and discussing spiritedly. This class was truly unexpected. Everyone was very curious as to what the final result would be. However, most people still believed Qi Shaowen's words. After all, his words represented authority in the field of archaeology. Zhou Yan and a few others came up and asked worriedly, "Third brother, who is this beauty? How dare she talk back to Professor Qi? Don't you know that he's famous for his stubbornness? He even dared to talk back to the principal. You're in for it now." Tang Zheng glanced at Li Xiaotian and smiled mysteriously. That might not be the case. "Oh, do you believe this beauty's words? Is the National Museum's Ladies of the Nine Heavens painting real or fake?" A few people were surprised. This time, Tang Zheng did believe Li Xiaotian. He said, "We'll see in a while." Li Xiaotian heard this and said teasingly, "Didn't you always doubt me? Why do you believe me now?" "It's just a feeling." Li Xiaotian smiled faintly. "So your teacher isn't that great after all. I thought all the teachers in the university were amazing. You can't tell the difference between real and fake." Qi Shaowen walked in and happened to hear this sentence. His face flushed red, but he did not say anything to stop them. However, the complicated expression on his face was obvious to the observant. Qi Shaowen walked straight to Li Xiaotian and asked in a deep voice, "May I ask how you know that the Ladies of the Nine Heavens painting is fake?" As soon as he said this, everyone suddenly realized that this beauty was right. The National Museum's collection over the years was all fake. This was a big joke. Because I've seen the real thing. Of course, I know that the others are fake, Li Xiaotian said calmly. You've seen the real thing? Qi Shaowen's expression changed and he became agitated. Where is the real thing? Li Xiaotian said with a smile that was not a smile. So you admit that the Nine Heavens Maid's painting in the museum is a fake? Qi Shaowen took a deep breath and nodded reluctantly. Academics are rigorous. Although I'm reluctant to admit it, I have to admit that you're right. When the jade pendant in the painting was soaked with water, the word Li would appear. According to ancient records, this is impossible. Just like what you said, it could only be a flaw left behind by a later imitator. Although you're stubborn, at least you dare to speak the truth. Since that's the case, I'll satisfy your curiosity. 200 years ago, the painting of Maids of the Nine Heavens was obtained by a scholar. He was the creator of this fake painting, but he gave the real one to someone else. Who did you give it to? What does that Li character represent? Is it the name of this scholar? What is his name? Qi Shaowen ignored Li Xiaotian's comment about his stubbornness. Instead, he was like a studious student, humbly asking for advice. I can only tell you that the Li character is not the scholar's name. As for the scholar's name, I don't know either. Also, I can't tell you anything else. Li Xiaotian said firmly. Qi Shaowen said stubbornly. If we can figure this out, it will be a big deal for the archaeology world. Student, please don't keep it to yourself. Li Xiaotian firmly shook her head. The original copy of the painting of Maids of the Nine Heavens was in the Li Palace. Speaking of the origin of this painting, it involved the first palace master of the Li Palace, who was also the founder of the Li Palace. Back then, the first palace master of Li Palace fell in love with a scholar. The scholar gave her his precious painting of Maids of the Nine Heavens as a token of his love. This scholar was also a genius. He actually made a copy of the painting of Maids of the Nine Heavens, and its artistic value was not as good as the original. However, he purposely left a flaw, which was that Li character, which was one of the palace master of Li Palace's name. However, good times did not last long. This scholar eventually found a new love and abandoned her, breaking the palace master of Li Palace's heart. From then on, the palace master of Li Palace and the scholar separated, creating the mysterious palace master of Li Palace. There were no men in Li Palace, because the palace master of Li Palace was hurt by love and hated men. He did not allow any men to set foot in Li Palace. If I say I won't tell you, then I won't tell you. It's useless even if you try to persuade me. Li Xiaotian was firm. This was the first time Qi Shaowen had ever begged someone so humbly. Moreover, it was his own student. If you let me see the original painting of Maids of the Nine Heavens, then even if you don't come to this class in the future, I will still give you high marks. Hearing this, the others were envious. It was said that this class was the most difficult. With this promise, wouldn't it be great in the future? Unexpectedly, Li Xiaotian still refused. She was not a student of this class in the first place. Why would she care about high marks? Qi Shaowen was at his wit's end. He hung his head dejectedly, like a defeated general. He shook his head and said, "You guys sit down." Then he walked back to the podium. "Can't you just let him see it?" Tang Zheng persuaded. Li Xiaotian curled her lips and said, "That painting is in Li Palace's collection. I've only seen it a few times since I was young. Usually, only the palace master has the right to see it. How can I let him see it?" Tang Zheng said no wonder. However, he was also very curious about the painting. He asked, "Then what's the deal with this painting?" "I can't tell you." Qi Shaowen continued his lecture. However, it was obvious that he was in low spirits. He seemed a little out of it. It was not until he took out 2 ancient bronze artifacts that he regained some of his spirit. These are bronze masks made by the ancient people 3,000 years ago. What do you think is the difference? Qi Shaowen asked. Everyone focused their attention on the bronze masks. Both masks were slightly modeled and had the characteristics of ancient artifacts. Moreover, the masks themselves had a ferocious expression. They looked like some kind of ferocious beast, which made people feel a little guilty at first glance. This mask is a kind of worship that the ancient people had for totems. The ferocious beast on this mask was the object of their worship. Usually, this mask would only be worn during large-scale sacrificial ceremonies. This mask was found in an ancient tomb 30 years ago. It has great archaeological and aesthetic value. However, I have to say that one of these two masks is a fake. I wonder if anyone can tell the difference. Qi Shaowen looked at Li Xiaotian expectantly. The others also looked at Li Xiaotian in unison, hoping that she could create a miracle and tell the difference. However, Li Xiaotian subconsciously shook her head. Obviously, she could not tell the difference. However, when she turned her head, she saw Tang Zheng staring at the mask. "Hey, what are you looking at? You look so serious," Li Xiaotian asked curiously. Tang Zheng's eyes looked like they were about to sink into the bronze mask. He could not help but be surprised because he saw a stream of air flowing slowly inside one of the bronze masks. Moreover, that bronze mask had an ancient aura. However, the other bronze mask did not have the slightest difference. It was no different from an ordinary bronze mask. Could it be that the one with the stream of air is the real thing? Tang Zheng mused. Qi Shaowen saw Li Xiaotian shake her head, and could not help but look regretful. He then glanced at the others and found that most of them had their heads lowered, as if they were afraid that he would pick them to answer the question. No, there was one exception. This person was staring at the bronze mask without blinking. He seemed very interested and could not hide the surprise in his eyes. Wasn't this the boy who had been whispering to Li Xiaotian? Qi Shaowen's heart was filled with anticipation. He pointed at Tang Zheng and said, "Tell me, which one of these two is the real thing?" Tang Zheng pointed at the mask without hesitation and said, "This one." His firm tone stunned Qi Shaowen. "How did you know?" "Intuition." "Intuition?" Qi Shaowen frowned. Many of the others snorted. It was just a wild guess. Qi Shaowen also guessed that this must be a wild guess. However, he guessed right. He nodded and said, "You're lucky. This one is the real thing." However, looking at the serious expression on Tang Zheng's face, Qi Shaowen's heart skipped a beat. He said, "You can't just rely on your intuition to identify antiques. You need to know the history and relevant knowledge. If you get it right once or twice, it's just luck. It's not real skill." Li Xiaotian was not convinced. She retorted, "Sometimes intuition is much more useful than all those random knowledge. For example, you know so much. How come you can't identify the authenticity of the Ladies of the Nine Heavens painting?" Qi Shaowen blushed and said, "Student, you can't say that. It's a compulsory course for ancient examiners to know the relevant professional knowledge. How can you just rely on your intuition? I've been in this profession for my whole life, and I've never heard of anyone who can identify antiques based on their intuition." Li Xiaotian continued, "Others can't do it, but that doesn't mean he can't. Tang Zheng, am I right?" She winked at him. Tang Zheng's heart was shocked. F***ck, he was once again tricked by this black-bellied woman. She was a fraud. What she said was clearly putting him on the fire to roast. Her intentions were truly hateful. "Sure enough," Qi Shaowen said indignantly. "You said he can identify antiques based on his intuition, right? Well, I'll verify it today. Everyone can see clearly that archaeology is not based on intuition. It requires real knowledge as the foundation." The others were secretly satisfied. This class was full of twists and turns. They thought it would be peaceful, but they didn't expect to see such a scene. They all looked at Tang Zheng curiously. Everyone was full of expectations for the number one person in the archaeology department. They wondered if he could create another miracle. However, most people thought it was unlikely that a miracle would happen. After all, it was impossible to guess blindly based on intuition. Wang Shiji advised with concern. "Lao-san, there's no need to argue with Professor Qi. Otherwise, you'll fail at the end of the term. If you can really identify antiques based on your intuition, then you don't need to attend my class. I'll definitely give you a high score at the end of the term." Qi Shaowen threw out a huge bait. Tang Zheng's eyes lit up. This old professor was so difficult to deal with. It would be difficult to skip his class in the future. If he could get this exemption, then he could use the time in this class to do other things in the future. Chapter 332. Everyone else stared at Tang Zheng in disbelief, wondering if he was joking. Was he really trying to judge the authenticity of an antique by feeling? Alright, then I'll prove that you're wrong. Qi Shaowen took out a few more items from the box. There were 2 porcelain bowls, 2 small incense burners, and 2 short knives. He said, "Judge for yourself. Besides, I can let you walk over and take a look. You can also touch them with your hands." Tang Zheng was eager to try. He strode up to the podium and laid out the items one by one in front of him. "I don't believe that you'll be able to get them all right by guessing." Qi Shaowen said, "One of these 3 antiques is a fake, while the other is the real deal." Tang Zheng nodded calmly. He had already seen through the clues. These 3 antiques did not have the aura of the bronze mask, but he could feel the vicissitudes of history. Why is the bronze mask the only one with aura? Tang Zheng was surprised. Even without the aura, he could tell if the mask was real or fake. The vicissitudes of history could not be faked. Ordinary people would not be able to perceive the vicissitudes of history, because their senses were not as sharp as Tang Zheng's. As his cultivation level increased, his perception of the outside world became sharper and clearer. Tang Zheng held the bronze mask suspiciously. The aura on the mask swooshed into Tang Zheng's hand and heart, then quickly flowed into his body through his meridians. What's going on? However, the aura was not threatening at all. Instead, it was mixed with a cooling sensation, which made Tang Zheng feel very comfortable. Finally, the aura merged into his energy center and transformed into true qi, filling his body with true qi. This aura can be transformed into true qi. Tang Zheng was overjoyed. But what's so special about this bronze mask? Why don't the other 3 antiques have any aura? How do you feel? Can you tell which one is real and which one is fake? Qi Shaowen asked. Seeing that Tang Zheng was silent, the crowd began to whisper. Is he deliberately mystifying? Judging by his senses? I've never heard of anything like that. I think he won't be able to guess it. That's not necessarily true. Tang Zheng can create miracles every time. Maybe he can do it this time too. The crowd was divided into 2 groups, and they all stared at Tang Zheng with burning eyes. Tang Zheng abruptly raised his head and glanced at Qi Shaowen. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. He quickly picked out the 3 authentic ones and said confidently, "These 3 are authentic." Qi Shaowen's expression suddenly changed. He stared at Tang Zheng as if he was looking at a monster. He exclaimed, "How is this possible? How did you do it?" Tang Zheng smiled mysteriously. "It's a feeling." Qi Shaowen was skeptical. "Did you really just rely on your instincts?" Tang Zheng nodded. Qi Shaowen was still in disbelief. He quickly took out a few more items from the box and said, "These aren't the same. They're all different kinds of antiques. Some of them are real, some are fake. Take a look and see which ones are authentic." Tang Zheng swept his eyes over them, and found that not a single one of them had a flow of air inside, but there were a few that gave off a sense of vicissitudes, so he casually pointed at the antiques and said, "These are the real thing, the rest are all fakes." The others watched as he identified the antiques as if they were vegetables. It was an eye-opener. Their eyes were wide open, and they could not help but hold their breaths. They stared at Qi Shaowen intently, hoping that he would reveal the truth. Qi Shaowen was shocked at first, especially when Tang Zheng did not point out any of the antiques. His expression turned serious. However, when Tang Zheng pointed out the last antique, his expression turned strange. This antique was a small, exquisite pagoda. It was cast in iron and the carvings were exquisite. It even looked new and shiny. A smile gradually appeared on Qi Shaowen's face. In the end, he could not help but laugh. "Haha, do you really think your instincts are reliable? Let me tell you, you're dead wrong. Archaeology requires professional knowledge. You can't just fool around with your feelings. You're still too young. Young people tend to be conceited. Conceit leads to pride. Pride leads to mistakes." Tang Zheng looked at him suspiciously. What do you mean? Qi Shaowen picked up the pagoda and asked, "Are you saying this is an authentic antique?" Tang Zheng could clearly sense the vicissitudes of life in the pagoda. It was just like the other antiques. He nodded. Of course it is. Qi Shaowen's expression became very interesting. He looked like a child showing off his favorite toy. You're wrong. This is definitely not an authentic antique. It's a fake. A fake? Tang Zheng activated his internal energy. His eyes and ears sharpened. He could indeed sense an ancient aura from the pagoda. It was even stronger than the other antiques. Therefore, it should be an antique from an even older era. There was no mistaking this feeling. It could not be faked. No, this is definitely an authentic antique, Tang Zheng said with certainty. Qi Shaowen shook his head confidently. It's okay if you're wrong. This is the unanimous judgment of a few of us old friends. This is definitely a fake. So keep your feelings to yourself. If you miss any of this class in the future, don't even think about passing the semester. The others looked at Tang Zheng with mixed feelings. Even the most amazing person in the Department of Archaeology who was good at creating miracles had failed. It seemed that his feelings were not reliable. It was better for him to focus on learning professional knowledge. However, Tang Zheng did not believe him. He insisted. I'll continue to stand by my judgment. This is definitely an antique. And it's even older than the other antiques you have. After saying that, he returned to his seat. Although he did not get the chance to be exempted from the class, Tang Zheng was sure of one thing. That was, the airflow in some antiques could help him improve his cultivation. However, he could not figure out what the unique characteristics of these antiques were. He still needed to study them carefully. Li Xiaotian pursed her lips and teased. Weren't you very confident? Why did you still fail? Facing this two-faced woman who was good at digging holes, Tang Zheng said impatiently, It's all your fault. Li Xiaotian, are you really going to follow me forever? Of course. If you don't return my things to me, I'll follow you forever. Well then you'll follow me forever. It's best if you go back to the boys' dormitory with me and sleep together. Sleep your big head ghost. Men are indeed not good things. Palace Master's usual teachings are indeed wise words. Li Xiaotian said indignantly. Ring ring ring. The bell rang for the end of class. Qi Shaowen packed up his belongings and carefully put them back into the box. He gave Li Xiaotian a complicated look, then glanced at Tang Zheng proudly. Finally, he strode out of the classroom. As soon as he returned to his office, his phone rang. Old Wei, what's the matter? Qi Shaowen asked. Old Qi, I found something new about the thing we discussed last time. What is it? That twinkle gem pagoda. Didn't we discuss it for a long time before deciding that it was made in modern times? Actually, it's not. I finally found the origin of this twinkle gem pagoda. It was made by a master craftsman more than 1,000 years ago. It was a tribute to the royal family. However, it was lost during the tribute. Only an ancient book recorded this, and even had a picture attached to it. That's the twinkle gem pagoda we discussed. Old Wei said excitedly. Obviously, this discovery was too unexpected. Qi Shaowen quickly took out the twinkle gem pagoda from the box, and looked at it carefully. He asked doubtfully, Is what you said true? Of course. We've known each other for so many years. When have I ever lied to you? Qi Shaowen's expression changed abruptly. He dashed to the office and ran to the classroom at the speed of a 100-meter race. Along the way, the teachers and students were stunned. Was this Professor Qi? The Professor Qi who was known for his rigor? Why was he running like a madman? Was he not afraid of falling and injuring himself with his old arms and legs? Bang! Qi Shaowen pushed the classroom door open and found that it was empty. The archaeology class was over, and everyone had left. There was no one left. What's that kid's name? Qi Shaowen frowned and slapped his head. Oh, I forgot to ask. I'm so old and muddle-headed. How could I forget such important information? How did that kid do it? How could he be so sure that the Twinkle Gem Pagoda is authentic? Did he really rely on his intuition? Qi Shaowen was deeply shocked. Relying on his intuition? He thought it was too unbelievable. He had been in this line of work all his life, and he had never heard of such a thing. He must have a knack for it. I must find this kid. His eyes gradually became determined. After a while he laughed again. Haha, God has eyes. I finally found a talented guy. This kid must be carefully trained. Yes, he must be carefully trained. This is the future star of the archaeology world. He was so excited that he was speechless. He had completely forgotten that he had just rejected Tang Zheng. Hey old Qi, what's wrong with you? You're laughing and talking about the future star? Why do you feel like you've gone crazy? Old Wei's voice sounded from the phone. Qi Shaowen laughed heartily. Haha, old friend. I've finally found the most talented student I've ever seen in my life. That's right, I'm definitely going to take him under my wing. I won't let anyone else steal such a genius away from me. What kind of genius are you talking about? Nothing. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Qi Shaowen slammed the phone down and muttered. This old guy has been looking for a favorite student to inherit his skills for a long time. I must not let him find that kid. Haha, that kid is mine. No, there's no time to lose. I can't let this kind of genius slip away. I must go to the school and ask them to find out who that kid is. I must find him as soon as possible. After that, he rushed to the archaeology department's office building. This scene confused many people who were familiar with him. They wondered what was wrong with Professor Qi today. Why was he acting so crazy? Chapter 333. Tang Zheng was not clear about Qi Shaowen's reaction. He, Li Xiaotian, and the members of 502 were eating in the cafeteria when another group of people aggressively rushed over. Everyone in Yi Dingdang's dormitory, and Yi Dingdang took the lead, coming over aggressively. Who are these people? Why are they so murderous? Li Xiaotian asked the few of them with a smile as he drank a large cup of cola. Tang Zheng, who is he? Li Fangfei replaced Dingdang and asked coldly. Tang Zheng, who do you think I am to you? Li Xiaotian blinked and asked meaningfully. Yi Dingdang wrinkled her eyebrows. Even though she knew that Tang Zheng's charm was not small, but for such a great beauty to suddenly appear by Tang Zheng's side made her feel a great sense of crisis. Don't spout nonsense, you're not anyone to me. Tang Zheng anxiously refuted. This black-bellied girl often dug holes. Looking at her current appearance, she must be up to no good. You heartless person, are you not going to admit what you've done? Li Xiaotian purposely pretended to be resentful and complained. Tang Zheng felt a headache coming on. This woman really did not have good intentions. She wanted to ignite Yi Dingdang, this powder keg. Unexpectedly, Yi Dingdang did not explode, and instead acted as if nothing had happened and said, "Oh, I didn't know that you and my fiancé had such a good relationship." Fiancé? The others were dumbstruck. Even Li Fangfei, Zhou Yan and the others were no exception. They looked at the two of them with strange expressions. When did they become fiancé and wife? Li Xiaotian looked at Tang Zheng thoughtfully, and thought to himself that men were indeed not good people. When he was in southern Yunnan, he was intimate with another girl, and now a fiancé appeared so quickly. If you don't give me the heaven-shocking bow, see how I'll ruin your good fortune. Fiancé, right? As far as I know, Tang Zheng still has a girlfriend. Li Xiaotian said. Tang Zheng even had the heart to kill someone. Li Xiaotian was really here to dig a hole, and had even dug such a deep hole. As expected, the others looked at Tang Zheng with unfriendly gazes, especially Yi Dingdang's roommates. Now in their hearts, they already had a fiancé like Yi Dingdang, who was as beautiful as a flower in jade, and dared to step on two boats. That was simply something worse. Yi Dingdang gave Tang Zheng a deep look as she wondered how this woman knew about Fang Shirshi. But now was not the time to be entangled in this matter. She gracefully held onto Tang Zheng's arm and said intimately, "I know more about him than you do. Tang Zheng, let's go out for a walk." Tang Zheng was eager to leave Li Xiaotian. He hurriedly nodded his head and walked towards the cafeteria with Yi Dingdang. "I'm full. I'm going for a walk too." Li Xiaotian also stood up and walked on the other side of Tang Zheng. One on the left and one on the right, under the attack of the two beauties, Tang Zheng walked out with his head held high. The others were stunned. Sinosaurus straightened his chin that was about to fall to the ground, and said, "That works too." Li Fangfei and the other two girls could not hide their surprise. They looked at each other and said, "What's wrong with Ding Dang? Could it be that the shock was too great, so it's abnormal?" Yi Ding Dang was naturally a normal person, but she could tell with a single glance that Tang Zheng had nothing to do with this unfamiliar girl. She had known Tang Zheng for so long, so she still had some understanding and trust in him. The three of them walked onto a tree-lined path. Yi Ding Dang stopped in his tracks, stared straight at Li Xiaotian, and asked, "Let's get straight to the point. What exactly are you trying to do?" Seeing that Yi Ding Dang was not a kind person and did not fall for her trick, Li Xiaotian said while beaming, "As long as he returns what belongs to me, I will naturally not disturb the two of you." Yi Ding Dang looked at Tang Zheng as if he was asking, and Tang Zheng immediately waved his hand. "Don't listen to her nonsense, that thing has no owner, it's not yours, why should I give it to you?" "Haha, you finally admitted that the heaven-shocking bow is in your hands." Li Xiaotian's eyes lit up as he pointed at Tang Zheng and said, "Who said it was in my hands?" Tang Zheng denied. Li Xiaotian did not mind. "It doesn't matter if you don't admit it, since we have a tacit understanding. I have a lot of time. From now on, I will accompany you every day until you return the heaven-shocking bow to me." "Up to you," Tang Zheng said indifferently. "Oh right, I don't have a place to stay yet. Accompany me to a hotel," Li Xiaotian said arrogantly. Yi Ding Dang raised his eyebrows. This person actually asked Tang Zheng to accompany her to a room in front of her. No matter how calm Yi Ding Dang was, his lungs were about to explode from anger. "Shut up. Is there a girl as shameless as you?" Yi Ding Dang flipped out. Li Xiaotian was not afraid of her, but instead provoked her with a smile that was not a smile. "Yo, you finally flipped out. I thought you would be indifferent. What is shame? I don't understand. In order to obtain the heaven-shocking bow, I will do anything, and might even snatch him away from you. So you better advise him to return it to me quickly." "Li Xiaotian, if you don't shut up, you'll never be able to obtain the heaven-shocking bow." Tang Zheng immediately berated loudly. Li Xiaotian covered her small mouth and chuckled, a complacent and crafty light appearing in her eyes, and said, "It's just a few words. Why are you so angry? Let me tell you, I'm not interested in men, hee. With that, he waved his hand and walked away in a carefree manner. Not interested in men. Could it be that she was interested in women? She was a lesbian. Tang Zheng could not help but think of the situation in Li Palace. It was filled with women. Maybe the holy maiden of Li Palace really liked women. "Who is she?" Yi Ding Dang asked jealously. Tang Zheng did not hide anything, and said truthfully, "Holy maiden of Li Palace." "Holy maiden of Li Palace? The Li Palace you're talking about is the Li Palace that's one of the three great organizations?" Yi Ding Dang was shocked. Ever since she had a conflict with the martial sect, she had also understood the relevant knowledge, so she was not unfamiliar with the name Li Palace. "How did you get involved with the people from Li Palace?" Yi Ding Dang felt that he could not see through Tang Zheng anymore. Tang Zheng shook his head. "It's a long story. Anyway, she's a burden. She's relying on me. She wants me to give her the heaven-shocking bow." "What's the heaven-shocking bow?" Yi Ding Dang was confused. "A very powerful bow is very important to me, so it's impossible for me to give it to her. Furthermore, I risked my life to obtain this thing, so how can I give it to her?" Back then, in the prehistoric heavenly tomb, he had also risked killing monks to snatch the heaven-shocking bow first. At that time, it was only out of revenge against Li Xiaotian that he discovered the mystical aspects of the heaven-shocking bow. The heaven-shocking bow had saved him from the gates of hell many times. It was one of the keys to his life. How could he give it to others? Yi Ding Dang did not fully understand, but she understood one thing, and that was that Li Xiaotian wanted to steal Tang Zheng's treasure. How preposterous! "Why don't I send her away?" Tang Zheng stopped her. "It's useless, we are not her match. She's that powerful. She's a pre-celestial martial artist. Furthermore, her identity is special, so there's no need to lower herself to her level. Since she wants to pester me, then let's see what tricks she can play." Yi Ding Dang was helpless and said, "Then that's the only thing we can do." However, when she thought about how such a beauty was pestering Tang Zheng all day, she felt very unhappy. She stared straight at Tang Zheng and asked hesitantly, "You can't have fallen for her, right?" Tang Zheng was stunned. Why would she think of this question? Like Li Xiaotian? Please stop joking around. If I can't get rid of my relationship with her, who would like her? Seeing that Tang Zheng was at a loss, Yi Dingdang knew that he was overthinking it, and smiled shyly. I was overthinking it. Doesn't she like women? Yes, don't let your imagination run wild. I came to tell you something. Jiang Chuan Yuan Yi is dead, and he died in an alley not far from the school. However, this news was controlled by the school, and most people do not know about it. This person deserved to die. An island nation's people came to our country to show off. Tang Zheng muttered to himself, and told Yi Dingdang what happened in the alley. Yi Dingdang turned pale with fright, and exclaimed, Why are there so many people involved in this matter? That woman called Marshall came again. Will your identity as a cultivator be exposed? This was the biggest secret between the two. When Marshall chased after Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang in ordinary balance, Tang Zheng's identity as a cultivator was exposed. However, Yi Dingdang personally promised Tang Zheng that she would not reveal Tang Zheng's identity as a cultivator to anyone, including her parents. It hasn't been exposed for the time being, but Li Xiaotian is also clear about my identity as a cultivator. I'm just worried that she might reveal it to Marshall. Tang Zheng said worriedly. Yi Dingdang shook her head. No, since she didn't announce this news earlier, there's no need for it now. Moreover, you still have the heaven-shocking bow that she wants. I hope so. Yi Dingdang looked at him in a daze, and asked worriedly. Tang Zheng, all the powers are gathered in the capital, and there's even that demon god. You're too dangerous. Don't worry, I won't die. I'm a cat, my life is strong. Tang Zheng patted his chest and said fearlessly. You're actually joking with me. Yi Dingdang's eyes blossomed with splendor. Ever since she had revealed her feelings to Tang Zheng had been deliberately avoiding her. It was only because she had taken the initiative to maintain this relationship. But just now, Tang Zheng's attitude was something that had never happened between the two of them, allowing Yi Dingdang to see hope. What's wrong with me joking? Yi Dingdang was extremely excited, his face beaming with joy. He shook his head. Nothing. I'll be leaving first. I need to go back and tell my family about what happened in the alley. Yi Dingdang said as she ran away, but after a few steps, she turned around and ran back. In front of Tang Zheng's astonishment, her warm and soft lips kissed Tang Zheng's face, and then she ran away as if she was flying. Tang Zheng stared blankly at her figure that was like a cheerful lark shuttling through the trees, disappearing in the blink of an eye. He touched his cheeks, as if he could still feel the warmth of her lips. What kind of situation was this? He was actually counterattacked by Yi Dingdang. Moreover, it was in broad daylight, and the chastity of his cheeks was taken away by her. Chapter 334. As night fell, Tang Zheng did not return to school. Instead, he quietly went to the five-star hotel alone, only to find that it was already empty. Sawada Ichiro had actually checked out, and no one knew where he went. Since he had already clashed with Sawada Ichiro, Tang Zheng naturally would not let him go. However, he did not expect the other party to be so cunning and actually slip away. It was probably because the demon god's influence on him was too great that he was so scared that he did not dare to show himself. Since that was the case, Tang Zheng had no choice but to wait for the next time he met the other party. He returned to Lu Qingmei's residence. As soon as the door opened, Lu Qingmei enthusiastically threw herself into his embrace and said, "You're finally back. I thought you wouldn't come today." Looking at her watery eyes, Tang Zheng pinched her chin and said, "How could I not come? I came over after I finished my business." "How's Longtingyu?" Lu Qingmei asked worriedly. "Don't worry, he won't be able to jump up." Tang Zheng did not find out where Longtingyu was, otherwise he might have visited him again. Lu Qingmei heaved a sigh of relief and said, "That's good. I'm submitting my resume online today, and looking for another job." "Aren't you going to rest for a few days?" Lu Qingmei, yen is identical to, shook his head and said, "Work is still interesting. It's boring to stay at home all day, but today is quite interesting, with Xiaobai accompanying me. It's very smart, as if it can understand what I'm saying. This little guy is quite smart, but his temper is also quite bad. Don't provoke him." Squeak squeak. Xiaobai jumped over, unconvinced as it bared its teeth at Tang Zheng, as if it did not want him to ruin its reputation. Look at how interesting it is. Little White bounced off his hind legs and jumped onto Tang Zheng's shoulder. His claws scratched Tang Zheng's head, and not long later, his hair turned into a chicken's nest. Stop fooling around. Tang Zheng slapped Xiaobai on the shoulder. The little guy grimaced unhappily on the ground, causing Lu Qingmei to giggle incessantly. This is a gift for you, Tang Zheng said as he took out a gift box. What is it? Wow, Jade Buddha, jade bracelet, you gave it to me? Lu Qingmei was pleasantly surprised. It wasn't that no boy had ever given her a gift before, but he had never been as happy as this. It must be very expensive. Looking at the crystal clear color, Lu Qingmei asked, You have to spend money to study. You can't spend money recklessly. She knew about Tang Zheng's family situation. Seeing that he had bought her such an expensive gift, she was very happy, but also a little distressed. Don't worry, I still have the money to buy gifts. These 2 gifts can protect you. When you encounter a gangster, they can launch a counterattack. Tang Zheng introduced. These 2 jade articles were engraved with the spirit-controlling array. Now that his cultivation had greatly increased, the power of this array was naturally extraordinary. It was more powerful than the jade articles he had given out before. Moreover, the jade bracelet and the jade Buddha pendant were double insurance, which could completely guarantee Lu Qingmei's temporary safety. Lu Qingmei had encountered too many dangers, and Tang Zheng could not bear to let her be in danger again. Is it really as magical as you? Why haven't I heard that jade articles have such a great effect? Lu Qingmei suspiciously asked. Others can't, but I can give you one. You just have to remember that these 2 jade articles must never leave your body. You have to wear them with you, do you understand? Okay, I will listen to you. You are so good to me. Lu Qingmei hooked her arms around Tang Zheng, and took the initiative to give him a kiss. Xiaobai immediately covered his eyes with his claws, looking embarrassed. At the same time, the Ye family fell into an intense discussion. The news that Yi Dingdang brought back was too shocking. The demon god had actually come to the capital, and had even injured the martial organization's people. Furthermore, the Li Palace was also involved. It could be foreseen that in the near future, a terrifying storm would rise in the capital, and the Ye family would not be able to stay out of it. Of course, there was also a huge opportunity. If the Ye family handled it properly, they would obtain considerable benefits, and at least have the opportunity to improve their status in the family. Yi Xuanji sat in the armchair, muttering to himself. He glanced at the few descendants, and finally fixed his gaze on Yi Dingdang. He never would have thought that the granddaughter that he did not care about would actually find a fiancé like Tang Zheng, and become the most important character in this storm. Tang Zheng actually had a close relationship with the Holy Maiden of the Li Palace. This news was too important. Although the great families were afraid of the 3 great organizations, if there was an opportunity to deepen their relationship, they would definitely not miss it. For example, everyone knew that the Yen family had a close relationship with the Li Palace, which was why the Yen family could sit firmly on the top of the 4 great families. It did not mean that they would always rely on the Li Palace, but at certain crucial moments, the Li Palace would give the Yen family a hand, which could completely tilt the scales in favor of the Yen family. This was the power of these 3 large organizations. However, these 3 large organizations were extremely mysterious. Only the Li Palace would occasionally meddle in the secular world. As for the other 2 large organizations, especially the Azure Dragon Hall, even the members of the large families had never seen anyone from the Azure Dragon Hall. They only knew that the Azure Dragon Hall was extremely powerful, completely surpassing the Li Palace and the martial organization. The Holy Maiden of the Li Palace was the next palace master of the Li Palace. Since the relationship between Tang Zheng and the Holy Maiden of the Li Palace was not shallow, if the Holy Maiden of the Li Palace was in power in the future, then the Ye family would be able to benefit from the Li Palace. With this relationship, the Ye family could far surpass the Song and Chu families, keeping pace with the Yen family, and even squeeze the Yen family out of the top position. Yi Xuanji could not help but be moved. The others also gradually understood this point, especially Yi Ke. Although his face was calm, his heart had set off stormy waves. He was the eldest son of the Ye family's third generation, and the only male child. In the future, he was very likely to inherit the Ye family's huge family business. But now that Yi Tianlei had returned to the Ye family, and halfway through, there was also Tang Zheng, this anomaly, which made him feel a sense of crisis. The first time he saw Tang Zheng, he felt that the other party was extraordinary. Although it was just a hurried glance, it left a deep impression on him. Especially after hearing about what happened in Longxiang Mountain, he paid special attention to Tang Zheng. If Tang Zheng crossed the threshold of the Ye family, then his position would be in jeopardy, and his father's position would also be in jeopardy. It must be known that his father was the only heir of the Ye family, but now there was Yi Tianlei, and the other party had the help of Tang Zheng, like a tiger that had grown wings. It seems that I must ask father to return home quickly. Teacher staying abroad to explore the international market is not a good thing. Yika silently made up her mind. This demon god is not a good person. Wu suffered a big loss in his hands. The other people of Wuzong will definitely come to the capital to support. Pass down the order. If Wuzong comes, we must investigate who came to the capital. In addition, we must ensure the safety of Tang Zheng by all means. This is the most important task of the Ye family. Yi Xuanji said in a deep voice. Yi Dingdang raised her eyebrows and smiled. She had been worried about the safety of Tang Zheng. Now, with the promise of the old man, Tang Zheng's safety increased by a few points. Old man, I will go to Yanqing University to protect the safety of the little handsome brother. Feng Xinyang took the initiative to volunteer. Yi Xuanji nodded in agreement. Father, I heard that the kid from Dianan's Long family seemed to have suffered a big loss in the capital last night. He was thrown down from a 10-story building and fell half to death. Yi Tianlei said. Yi Xuanji disdainfully snorted and said, Long Xianyuan has a son and spoiled this Long Tingyu. This Long Tingyu is not much different from Chu Xiaofeng. He is just a standard playboy. Don't worry about it. If someone can take care of him, it's his own bad luck. He looked up at Yi Ku and praised her. Little Ku, you are much more sensible than those two dandy. People should look up to the excellent, not learn from some ado who can't be supported. The so-called 4 young masters of the capital actually included ado like Chu Xiaofeng. What a big joke. Yi Ku smiled faintly and said, Grandfather is right, but recently I heard an interesting news. It is said that after the Battle of Longxiang Mountain, the Chu family lost a lot of face, and Chu Xiaofeng was even grounded, so the busybodies elected a new 4 young masters of the capital. Chu Xiaofeng was not among them, but Dingdong's fiancé, Tang Zheng, replaced him and became one of the new 4 young masters of the capital. Yi Xuanji said curiously, These busybodies are thinking about these useless things all day long. However, this also shows that Tang Zheng's appearance is indeed very successful. Fortunately, such a newcomer is a member of our Ye family. Yi Dingdang heard this and was secretly happy. Although this was just a false reputation, at least it meant that her fiancé was accepted and respected. At this moment, Long Tingyu was with Sawada Ichiro. Both of them could not hide the shock on their faces, especially when Long Tingyu heard about the demon god. He occasionally heard his father, Long Xianyuan, mention the cultivators. Therefore, he was very sensitive to this special group of people, and was quite afraid of them. This time, Sawada Ichiro actually provoked a cultivator. Thinking of the various methods of the cultivators in the legends, he shuddered and immediately asked to leave the capital. He did not even care about his body. This was the first time Sawada Ichiro heard about the cultivators. He was also very surprised and said indignantly, Young Master Long, did my disciple die in vain? And that Tang Zheng, is he still not dead? Long Tingyu could not help but roll his eyes at him. Your martial arts are high, but why are you so stupid? Is it necessary to wade into this muddy water for a dead person? Mr. Sawada Ichiro, since Tang Zheng is involved with the cultivators, and is also the target of the cultivators, we don't need to do anything. The cultivators will take his life. We have to leave this place as soon as possible. Go to Dianan, go to my house. As long as we return to Dianan, no one will be able to threaten us. Long Tingyu advised earnestly. Sawada Ichiro muttered to himself in silence. thinking that Yamamoto had also gone to the south before disappearing, and the Long family was powerful in Dianan. Why not borrow the Long family's help to investigate their whereabouts? Chapter 335. A black shadow walked out from the door. This person was as silent as a ghost. It was unknown how long he had been hiding here. Who are you? Get out! Long Tingyu was furious and flew into a rage. Ichiro Sawada looked as if he had seen a ghost. His entire body trembled as he pulled out his katana and said warily, "How did you find this place?" "You know him. Who is he?" Long Tingyu asked curiously. Ichiro Sawada's face was ashen. Previously, he was not afraid of the other party, but ever since Long Tingyu told him about the various mystical methods of cultivators, he was truly frightened. It turned out that there was such a group of extraordinary people in this world. "He is the demon god, the cultivator you are talking about," Ichiro Sawada said in fear. Cultivator? If Long Tingyu was not heavily injured, he would definitely be scared to the point of running away. He looked at the demon god in fear and asked, "What are you going to do?" "Let me tell you, I am the young master of the Long family in Dianan. If you kill me, my father will not let you go." The demon god glanced at him disdainfully and said, "Warriors, when the demon clan arrives, all of you will die." "The arrival of the demon clan? I did want to kill you just now, but after listening to your conversation, I don't want to kill you anymore. I think I can take in a few servants to do a lot of things for me, haha." The demon god laughed sinisterly. Neither of them could figure out what he meant. They hurriedly asked, "What do you mean?" "I will take the two of you as my slaves. When the demon clan arrives, you will not die. Furthermore, you will be able to obtain many benefits. Be your servant." Long Tingyu and Ichiro Sawada were furious. The two of them could be considered as people above others, but this demon god actually dared to say that he wanted to take them as his slaves. It was simply wishful thinking. In your dreams, scram back to where the F*CK came from. Long Tingyu did not care about his fear and cursed loudly. The demon god's eyes flashed red as he said, "Looks like I still need to spend some effort." With that, he raised his finger, and a strange power spread out. Long Tingyu realized that he was bound by a mysterious power, and then his body slowly rose into the air. "What are you doing?" Long Tingyu shouted in panic. "Quickly put me down, what did you do to me? If I want to pinch you to death, it would be as easy as pinching an ant. You still dare to challenge me, humph?" The demon god said with a murderous look. Seeing this, Sawada Ichiro was scared out of his wits. Suddenly, he clenched his teeth and swung his katana at the demon god. However, he found that his legs were wandering in the same place. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. What was going on? The demon god had not even come into contact with him, so why had he fallen into such a desperate situation? The Fiend Celestial sneered. "This is an array formation. Do you think you can escape? Drawing a circle and imprisoning it?" Sawada Ichiro was confused. Although this was the first time he had heard of this formation, he had personally experienced the horror of this formation. The fear in his heart grew even stronger. He originally had some thoughts of resistance, but now he didn't even dare to nod his head. If the demon god wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. If he did not submit, then he would die. Although Sawada Ichiro had a prominent position in the country, the people of this country were famous for bullying the weak and fearing the strong. The more tyrannical you were, the more afraid he would be, and the more he would worship you. If you were friendly to him, he would constantly go against you. Without a doubt, the strength displayed by the demon god was something that Sawada Ichiro could not contend against. In order to save his life, he chose to submit. With a plop, he knelt in front of the demon god and shouted, "Master!" The demon god laughed complacently. "Smart man, I guarantee that after the demon clan descends, you will receive enough benefits." "Thank you, master." Sawada Ichiro crawled on the ground. In fact, it was not as easy as it seemed for the demon god to cast the circle prison array formation. He had hidden outside the door and secretly cast the array formation. The two people in the room did not notice it at all. If they had escaped back then, The circle prison array formation might not have been able to trap them. The demon god looked at Long Tingyu again. Long Tingyu was already in the air, waving his arms and screaming in panic. How is it? Have you thought of an answer? The demon god walked in front of Long Tingyu and asked. Long Tingyu was really scared out of his wits, and hurriedly nodded his head. I promise you, master, from now on, you are my master, I will listen to you. The demon god smiled and nodded in satisfaction. That's right, a wise man submits to circumstances. However, I don't trust others the most. Only when I have the initiative in my hands will I be at ease. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 red lights shot out from his hands and entered the space between Long Tingyu and Sawada Ichiro's eyebrows. The 2 of them turned pale with fright and shouted, What are you doing? How do I know if you are sincere in being my servants? But now, it doesn't matter whether you are sincere or not. I have already planted the soul-devouring seal on your bodies. Other than me, no one else in this world can undo it. If the sect betrays me and dares to harm me, your souls will vanish into thin air with just a thought. The 2 of them felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave and shivered. It was too vicious. This simply did not leave them any way out. Even if the 2 of them were dissatisfied or had other thoughts, they did not have the slightest thought of resisting. Don't worry, as long as you don't have second thoughts, the soul-devouring seal will not deal with you. As long as you are obedient, everything will be fine. Long Tingyu and Sawada Ichiro glanced at each other at the same time, then scrambled to say, Master, we will definitely not have second thoughts, we will definitely be loyal to Master. The demon god nodded in satisfaction. Then let's leave the capital and go to Dianan. I still have very important things to do, so I can't delay. The next morning, Tang Zheng reluctantly left Lu Qingmei's apartment. After tossing and turning for most of last night, Lu Qingmei's fighting strength was completely released. She was even more ferocious than Feng Shishir and almost squeezed Tang Zheng dry. Early in the morning he saw Xiao Bai's listless appearance. This little guy had been listening to the wall all night, and did not sleep well at all. From time to time he would look at Tang Zheng with resentment in his eyes, mixed with a trace of contempt. Tang Zheng chose to ignore it, and did not take Xiao Bai away. Instead, he stayed by Lu Qingmei's side to protect her. When he arrived at the school gate, an off-road vehicle stopped in front of him. The window rolled down and a warm voice sounded. Little handsome, we meet again. Get in the car. Hey Aunt Feng, why are you here? Tang Zheng got in the car and asked curiously. He found that Yi Dingdang was also in the car. Haha, I came to protect you. You're so capable, you even have a relationship with the Holy Maiden of Li Palace. Feng Xinyang said meaningfully, and intentionally or unintentionally glanced at Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang couldn't help but recall the long talk between the mother and daughter last night. No one knew her daughter better than her mother. Although Feng Xinyang was usually careless and did not care about trifles, in fact, she also had a woman's innate meticulousness in her heart. From Yi Dingdang's description, she heard Yi Dingdang's concern about the relationship between Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian. Although the two were now incompatible, the relationship between men and women was hard to say. Didn't Yi Dingdang also have a lot of conflicts with Tang Zheng in the past? When Feng Xinyang heard her daughter's concerns, she formulated a detailed plan for her. That plan was to not show jealousy in front of Tang Zheng. That was something only a foolish woman would do. An outstanding man like Tang Zheng would definitely not lack women by his side. The facts also proved this point, so the only thing she could do was to not act like a jealous woman. Instead, she had to appear magnanimous. Most importantly, she had to show her own value. Now that Tang Zheng was facing a huge threat, accompanying him and sharing his joys and sorrows was her greatest value. Men valued this kind of experience the most, and would also respect women who shared joys and sorrows. Gradually, she would be able to open Tang Zheng's heart. When Yi Dingdang heard Feng Xinyang's plan, she felt as if she had awoken from a dream and secretly made up her mind. Therefore, when she saw Tang Zheng get on the car, she immediately threw him a brilliant smile. Tang Zheng was startled. This smile was so strange, he couldn't help but recall Yi Dingdang's kiss yesterday. His expression became somewhat awkward. He hurriedly used his words to cover up his awkwardness and said, Aunt Feng, you came to protect me? This is making a mountain out of a molehill. Hee, this is not making a mountain out of a molehill. This is the old man's order. Furthermore, the demon god has already appeared in the capital. We speculate that there will definitely be people from the martial sect coming to the capital. Last time, you also know about the ordinary balance matter. This martial sect is definitely not a mediocre person. This time, the other party will definitely send out a big shot. We have to be careful. Feng Xinyang explained. Tang Zheng's head sank. The martial sect was after all a huge problem for him. Furthermore, last time in the valley, Wu had recognized the jade pendant that was related to the mystery of his birth. He did not find out the reason, or perhaps deep down in his heart, he did not want to know his birth. He was a little troubled, shook his head, and threw these complicated thoughts to the back of his mind, and said, "We will try our best to be as careful as possible. As long as there are no accidents, Wu will not recover his memories, and for the time being, we will not be anxious about the matter of the ordinary balance. Then we will be safe." I hope so. Little handsome, I will live near the school for the next few days. If anything happens, call me at any time. Thank you, Aunt Feng. Aunt Feng, I'm here. I'll go to class first. Tang Zheng said as the off-road car arrived in front of the teaching building. Feng Xinyang, I'm going to class too. All right. Feng Xinyang smiled as she watched the two of them get off the car and exclaimed, "Truly a talented man, a match made in heaven. This girl is finally enlightened. Little handsome can't run away. Humph, who dares to steal my daughter's man? I, Feng Xinyang, will definitely not allow it." With that, he stepped on the gas pedal and left. Lao San, you're finally here. Something big has happened. The instructor was looking for you yesterday, and even the instructor knew that you didn't return home at all. It said that the instructor was very angry, and said that you didn't put the school's discipline in your eyes at all. Zhou Yan and the others stopped Tang Zheng and said anxiously, "That's right. Why is your phone turned off as well? It's out of battery." Tang Zheng did not have a clear impression of the instructor. He only remembered that he was a man in his 30s with a straight face. Why is he looking for me? Chapter 336. When Tang Zheng arrived at the School of Archaeology's office building, he happened to see the counselor Yan Liang striding out. Suddenly, Yan Liang saw Tang Zheng and immediately flew into a rage. "Tang Zheng, what exactly did you do? Not returning home at night. Do you still have school rules in your eyes?" Tang Zheng remembered that the school did not stop students from staying outside the school, and there were even people who rented rooms outside the school. After all, they were all adults, so the management in this area was very loose. Seeing him so angry, Tang Zheng calmly said, "Counselor, why are you looking for me?" "Don't interrupt, I haven't finished speaking yet. How can you be like this? Are you still a student?" Yan Liang waved his hand and endlessly roared. Tang Zheng frowned. "I didn't make any big mistakes. Is there a need to make such a big fuss over a small issue? You're still not convinced, right?" Seeing Tang Zheng's displeased expression, Yan Liang's voice suddenly rose a few notches. "Let me tell you, I've seen a lot of students like you. Once you enter university, you don't study hard and only know how to have fun. Let me tell you, that's the style of a student from a third-rate university. And this is Yanqing University. Everything has to be done according to the rules. I'm your counselor, so you have to follow my rules, or else you can pack up and scram." Tang Zheng's face had already darkened. Did this person eat gunpowder? Unreasonable. Seeing that the other party was still going to scold him and endlessly scolding him, Tang Zheng turned around and left. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with this kind of person. Yan Liang had not finished scolding him, but seeing Tang Zheng turn around and leave, he could not help but become even angrier. He quickly stopped him and roared, "What are you doing? The teacher said a few words to you, but you don't want to listen and you still want to run? What kind of attitude is this?" He spoke nonstop like a machine gun, his saliva splattering everywhere. Tang Zheng took a step back to avoid his saliva. Tang Zheng finally understood why Wang Shiji would say that the counselor had a bad temper. However, he did not provoke him, so was there a need to pursue him so relentlessly? Was this still the quality of a university counselor? If you respect me, I will respect you back. Since he had such an attitude, Tang Zheng was even more annoyed. He said coldly, I have no obligation to listen to your nonsense. You dare to scold me? When did I scold you? Just now, alright Tang Zheng, there are a lot of rumors about you. What number one fierce person in the archaeology department? I think it's bullshit. This is simply a disgrace to the archaeology department. During the military training, so many people from the archaeology department went to the military to train, but only one of them did not receive any rewards. Do you think you are deliberately smearing the reputation of the archaeology department? Yin Liang asked loudly. Tang Zheng's heart moved. So this was the crux of the matter. Yin Liang was holding a grudge because of this matter. Back then, 5 people from the archaeology department had been chosen as outstanding representatives to participate in the military training, and only Tang Zheng had not been rewarded in the end. Tang Zheng smiled disdainfully and said, You're unreasonable. You. Just as the instructor was about to curse, his phone rang. Looking at the caller ID, he immediately changed to a smile and said, Principal, you're looking for me? Did you find him? I found him. I'll bring him to you right now. This Tang Zheng is too outrageous. I must properly criticize him. Yin Liang said. Hurry up and bring him to my office. Yes, I'll be right there. Yin Liang hung up the phone, only to discover that Tang Zheng had already walked far away. He flew into a rage and said, Tang Zheng, who told you to leave? Hurry up and come back. Tang Zheng turned a deaf ear to him and walked forward with large strides. Yin Liang froze for a moment as he gasped for breath. In the past, when he lectured his students would not dare to talk back to him. But this time he discovered that Tang Zheng was not afraid of him at all. He felt that his dignity was being challenged. He quickly ran up and kicked Tang Zheng's calf, saying, I told you to run. Let's see where you can run to. Tang Zheng's eyes flashed with a cold light as he dodged to the side. He then grabbed onto his opponent's shoulder and threw him over his shoulder. Yin Liang was fiercely thrown onto the concrete floor. Ah! A scream rang out as Yin Liang lay on the ground. The passers-by all revealed a look of shock as they looked at Tang Zheng in disbelief. Tang Zheng acted as if nothing had happened and walked away. Yin Liang crawled up in a sorry state and roared. Tang Zheng, I'm going to expel you. Since you've offended me, don't even think about staying in Yanqing University. Tang Zheng stopped and said in disdain, You don't have the qualifications. Then I'll let you see if I have the qualifications. Yin Liang thought to himself, I've been in this school for so many years, but there has never been a student who dared to disobey me like this. I have countless ways to get rid of you. Tang Zheng, where do you think you're going? Suddenly, someone excitedly blocked Tang Zheng's path. Tang Zheng glanced over and saw that it was Qi Shaowen. I've been looking for you all day. The heavens do not disappoint those who persevere. I finally found you. Tang Zheng looked at him in surprise and asked, Why are you looking for me? Haha, of course it's something good. Come on, let's go to my office. Qi Shaowen dragged Tang Zheng to the school's office building. Tang Zheng, are you scared now? Let me tell you, it's too late to kowtow and apologize now. Don't even think about staying in this school. Yin Liang said arrogantly, not noticing that Qi Shaowen was behind Tang Zheng. When Qi Shaowen walked out, Yin Liang felt as if someone had grabbed him by the neck. He gaped and said in surprise, Professor Qi, why are you here? What are you doing? Qi Shaowen asked sternly. I'm educating a student. This Tang Zheng is not obedient at all. How can you educate a student like this? What do you mean by kowtowing and apologizing? Don't even think about staying in this school? Do you have the final say in this school? Qi Shaowen asked sternly. Yin Liang was stunned. He did not know why Qi Shaowen was so angry. Qi Shaowen was the treasurer of the archaeology department. Yin Liang did not dare to challenge his authority. He hurriedly said, Professor Qi, you've misunderstood. That's not what I meant. This Tang Zheng is being disobedient. The dean has been looking for him, but he ignored him. Qi Shaowen looked at Tang Zheng in surprise and said, He's got character. I like it. Tang Zheng was stunned. This old man was really unexpected. He could not believe that he would say something like that. People should have character. If you're always at my beck and call, that means you don't have a mind of your own. Moreover, if you're a scholar, you should focus on your studies. You can just ignore everything else, Qi Shaowen continued. Ha! Yan Liang wondered if there was something wrong with his ears. Professor Qi was actually defending Tang Zheng. Professor Qi, you can't spoil a student like this. Otherwise, there'll be big problems. Besides, he doesn't even listen to the dean. That's outrageous. What big problems? I think you're the one who's in big trouble. You were yelling and screaming just now. Where's your manners? Is this how a counselor should behave? Oh right. Tell the dean that I've found him. I won't be looking for him anymore, said Qi Shaowen. Yan Liang was shocked. Professor Qi, you're looking for him? Did he cause trouble in your class? What are you talking about? Nonsense. Go away, said Qi Shaowen impatiently. He dragged Tang Zheng toward the office building. Tang Zheng did not move. He asked, Professor Qi, why are you looking for me? Let's talk here. I have a class later. What class is more important than this? Don't go to class. Let me tell you, I'm looking for you because I have good news for you. I want you to be my disciple. You'll follow me from now on. I'm going to teach you everything I know. You'll have a master's degree and Ph.D. degree. Yan Liang almost bit off his own tongue. Was this real? He twisted his arm hard. It hurt. Damn, it was real. Qi Shaowen, who had never taught graduate students or Ph.D. students, wanted to take Tang Zheng as his disciple. This was unprecedented. What did this kid have that made Qi Shaowen think so highly of him? Tang Zheng was also in disbelief. He asked, Professor Qi, are you kidding me? Who's kidding? I'm talking to you very seriously. Qi Shaowen's face was serious. You were right about the Twinkle Gem Pagoda yesterday. It's authentic. Your intuition is 100% accurate. Although Qi Shaowen had never heard of such a skill, the truth was right in front of him. He had to believe it. In the end, he decided that Tang Zheng was a genius in archaeology. This was a talent that no one else had. He should not waste this talent. Tang Zheng did not know why Qi Shaowen had overturned his own judgment. However, to hear Qi Shaowen admit his mistake was rare and valuable for a long-established professor. He could not help but have a good impression of Qi Shaowen. Although this old man was stubborn and serious at times, he was also very adorable at other times. Professor Qi, thank you for your appreciation. However, I'm really not interested in pursuing a master's degree. Tang Zheng only went to university to experience the university life. He had no desire to further his studies. How can you waste this talent? No, this is a waste of God's gift. You must continue your studies. Qi Shaowen grabbed Tang Zheng's arm and refused to let him go. He was so excited that he could not speak coherently. Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. Yan Liang was even more surprised. Countless people wanted to be Qi Shaowen's apprentice, but he was stubborn and refused. This time, Qi Shaowen took the initiative to ask him to be his apprentice, but Tang Zheng refused. Did the sun rise from the west? However, Yan Liang was secretly delighted. This idiot rejected such a good opportunity. He was right to reject it. If he really became Qi Shaowen's disciple, he would definitely take revenge on me. Yes, I must make sure this matter is ruined. Yan Liang coughed and said, Professor Qi, since he doesn't know what's good for him, let's just forget about it. Yanqing University may not have many things, but there are plenty of studious students. Just find another one. Qi Shaowen glared at Yan Liang and reprimanded. What do you know? I've been waiting for decades for such a good seedling. How can I let him go just like that? Don't speak if you don't know anything. No one will treat you as a mute. Yan Liang's face instantly turned the color of pig liver. He remained silent, embarrassed. After a pause, Qi Shaowen looked at Tang Zheng and said, Tang Zheng, you're the one who raised the conditions. What will it take for you to agree to be my apprentice? Chapter 337. In the past, it had always been people who tried everything to be his apprentice. Now someone was trying everything to take him in as a disciple. Moreover, it was the highly respected Qi Shaowen. Many passers-by turned to look at them. Many of the archaeology students did not know who Tang Zheng was. They were all trying to guess who he was. Yin Liang almost fainted. Damn! Was there any justice in this world? What exactly was so great about this kid? Qi Shaowen stared at Tang Zheng with burning eyes, waiting for his answer. However, Tang Zheng shook his head. Thank you for your kindness. My ambition lies elsewhere. Qi Shaowen gritted his teeth and said, Don't be in such a hurry to turn me down. You don't know the charm of this industry. Today, I'll take you to a place. I'll let you experience the charm of this industry before you make a decision. Tang Zheng found it difficult to turn down Qi Shaowen's offer. Since the old man was so enthusiastic, he would follow him and see what charm he had. All right. Where are we going? Qi Shaowen's eyes lit up. He was excited. Let's go. You'll know when we get there. I promise it'll be a good place. Then he grabbed Tang Zheng's sleeve as if he was afraid that he would run away. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the two of them disappeared. However, before they could reach the school gate, they were stopped by Li Xiaotian. Where are you going? Hey, it's you. Qi Shaowen had a deep impression of Li Xiaotian. He could not forget the Ladies of the Nine Heavens painting. Hey, can we talk about this again? Can I borrow the original Ladies of the Nine Heavens painting? Qi Shaowen asked. The news that the Ladies of the Nine Heavens painting was a fake had spread within a small circle. It caused a huge commotion in the archaeology world. Many people asked Qi Shaowen how he discovered the flaw. When they heard that it was one of his students, they found it unbelievable. They wanted to know where the original painting was, and if they could have a chance to appreciate its charm. Li Xiaotian still shook his head. I'm not the one keeping the original painting. I can't get my hands on it, so I can't show it to you. What a pity, what a pity. Qi Shaowen let out a long sigh. Li Xiaotian changed the topic and asked, Where are you going? Oh, I'm Tang Zheng. I'm going to see the charm of archaeology. Li Xiaotian suddenly had an idea and asked, Can I go with you? Of course. Let's go together. Qi Shaowen readily agreed. Li Xiaotian walked to Tang Zheng's side and asked in a low voice, Why is this old man so enthusiastic? He's like a completely different person from yesterday. Tang Zheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. He wants to take me as his disciple. Li Xiaotian couldn't help but laugh. Oh, so you're quite popular? By the way, how did you determine the authenticity of those things yesterday? It's just a feeling, Tang Zheng said lightly. Li Xiaotian pursed his lips and pretended to be mysterious. Is this a secret skill of cultivators? Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure if this was a common skill of cultivators, especially the airflow in the bronze mask. If other cultivators could also sense that airflow and then absorb it, wouldn't they be able to quickly increase their cultivation? Besides, what was so special about that bronze mask? He couldn't tell at the moment, and could only say perfunctorily, maybe. Cultivators have so many magical things. It seems that the legends are true. No wonder the people of Wuzong hate you to the core. You have too many advantages in many aspects. Li Xiaotian said meaningfully. Why does Wuzong want to kill cultivators so badly? I don't think all martial artists are prejudiced against cultivators. In this world only Wuzong hates you. There is a historical reason for this, because Wuzong was created by New Era's descendants to guard against you cultivators. New Era's descendants? Tang Zheng was shocked. He had a deep impression of this legendary figure from hundreds of years ago. He actually used such a great method to expel such a powerful cultivator to the sky beyond heaven. Weren't all the cultivators expelled back then? Isn't it unnecessary to create a Wuzong? Tang Zheng asked suspiciously. Li Xiaotian shook her head and said, It seems that you don't know much about what happened at that time. I only know a few words, but after the cultivators were expelled, it didn't take long for some other cultivators to emerge. These were some people who obtained the cultivation method left behind by the cultivators by chance. The purpose of the martial sect was to eliminate these people. Tang Zheng suddenly realized, but he also felt a chill in his heart. New Era really wanted to kill all the cultivators. He did not want a cultivator to exist in this world. After hundreds of years, there are very few cultivators, so I'm very surprised that you can still become a cultivator. Furthermore, your master's cultivation is so high that he was able to avoid being hunted down by Wuzong for so many years. It's truly a miracle, Li Xiaotian praised. Tang Zheng said that Tian Chanzi did not cultivate to such a high realm bit by bit, but was the result of his rebirth. What are you two whispering about? Hurry up and get in the car. Qi Shaowen stopped a taxi and called out. The taxi went straight to Pan Garden. It was the first time for Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian to set foot here. This was a huge antique trading market. It was bustling with people, and there were all kinds of real or fake antiques. Qi Shaowen brought the two of them to an antique shop called the Imperial Treasure House. As soon as they stepped through the door, Tang Zheng felt a vast ancient aura blow against his face. He could not help but gasp. There were many treasures in this shop. This aura was condensed from many real antiques. An old man with a white beard wearing a long robe walked over and shouted, "Old Qi, how come you're willing to come to my little place? Don't you have classes today?" Qi Shaowen's face was glowing as he said, "Old Wei, I've brought my apprentice here today to experience the charm of archaeology. Of course I'd pick your shop. In the entire Panjiayuan Gardens, you're the one with the most treasures." This old man with a white beard was the one who spoke to Qi Shaowen on the phone yesterday. He was also the one who discovered the true mystery of the Twinkle Gem Pagoda. Old Wei stared at Qi Shaowen, as if he was looking at an alien. "Old Qi, when did you take in a disciple? I thought you never took in disciples?" Qi Shaowen chuckled. "That was in the past. Now I've met a genius, the future star of the archaeology world. Of course I can't let go of such a piece of unpolished jade." As he spoke, he looked at Tang Zheng with a burning gaze. Old Wei was enlightened. "What did you say about the future star yesterday? Was it not a joke? Was it real?" "Of course it was real. But let me tell you, you're done for. Don't think about such good things. I'm taking this disciple. No one else can compete with me," Qi Shaowen said eagerly, as if he was declaring his sovereignty. Old Wei was shocked. He and Qi Shaowen had been classmates since they were young and had been close friends for many years. He had never seen Qi Shaowen so attentive to anyone. He could not help but look curiously at Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian. This young man's aura was strange. There was a kind of domineering aura. It was almost impossible for a young man to have this kind of aura. It would only appear in people of high status. Old Wei's eyes flashed as if he wanted to see through Tang Zheng. But in the end, he could not see through Tang Zheng even with his decades of experience in antiques. This little girl's temperament was not simple either. He could vaguely sense a fierce aura. These two were so young, but why did they give off such an extraordinary feeling? This was the taste. Ordinary people would not have such feelings when looking at Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian, but Old Wei was the owner of this imperial treasury. He had been dealing with different people for decades. Moreover, he had been going through all kinds of real and fake antiques all day long. He had developed a pair of sharp eyes. "Old Qi, who's the disciple you're talking about?" Old Wei could not make up his mind. Qi Shaowen pointed at Tang Zheng and said, "Hey, this is the future star of the archaeological world." Tang Zheng was thick-skinned. He did not blush at such a compliment. Instead, he looked at the imperial treasury curiously. There were many antiques in the shop, including jade, calligraphy, paintings, ceramics, bronze, iron, and so on. Each of them had a kind of vicissitudes of life, which meant that all the antiques in this shop were authentic. This was the amazing part. It was rare for a shop to guarantee that all the antiques were authentic. After listening to Qi Shaowen's introduction, Old Wei stared straight at Tang Zheng. After a while he said, "Old Qi, where did you find him?" "He's this year's undergraduate student at Yenqing University. I've really found a treasure. You said he's a genius. What proof do you have?" Old Wei was skeptical. He had lived for so many years and had seen so many so-called geniuses. Therefore, he was not surprised. After all, many geniuses were just bragging. Qi Shaowen laughed. "I'm going to open your eyes today. Let's talk in the back hall." He was very familiar with the imperial treasury. He strode to the back hall. "You two hurry up. Let me tell you, Old Wei has a lot of treasures hidden away. Today, I'm going to open your eyes and let you understand the real charm of this business." The number of treasures in the imperial treasury was well known in the Panjiayuan. However, most people could only see the antiques placed in the lobby. These were all for sale, and many of the treasures were not for sale. These were the treasures of the imperial treasury. This was the foundation of the imperial treasury. It was something that others could not compare to. Seeing his old friend so excited, Old Wei did not stop him. Instead, he went with them to the back hall. The back hall was slightly smaller than the front hall. The decorations were also simpler. There were even fewer antiques on the wooden shelves. However, when Tang Zheng walked in, his entire body couldn't help but tremble, and his gaze turned cold, because this time, not only did he feel an even denser ancient aura, he also felt a few slowly flowing streams of air. Especially one of the streams of air that was like a clear spring flowing on the stone floor. The clear and melodious sound caused Tang Zheng's mind to tremble. Chapter 338. Tang Zheng hurriedly followed the flow of energy. It was a three-legged bronze cauldron. The cauldron was engraved with lifelike patterns of flowers, birds, fishes, and insects. Tang Zheng was shocked. Could this be a Dharma artifact like the 9 revolving alchemy cauldron? He couldn't help but walk towards the bronze cauldron. The flow of energy became more and more obvious. He even heard the sound of running water. Tang Zheng could hear the sound of flowing water. The others saw Tang Zheng's action. Li Xiaotian was curious. Qi Shaowen and Old Wei exchanged a look. They were both surprised. Qi Shaowen, on the other hand, was relieved. He winked at Old Wei and said, "What do you think?" Old Wei's heart was in turmoil. He had brought some important guests to the back hall to admire his collection. However, none of them had shown such strong interest in this bronze cauldron. Only Old Wei and Qi Shaowen knew the extraordinary origin of this bronze cauldron. Old Wei's expression turned serious when he saw Tang Zheng's reaction. Strange. Old Wei gritted his teeth. Qi Shaowen chuckled. "My disciple doesn't appraise antiques the same way we do. He relies on his intuition." "Oh, intuition?" Old Wei frowned. "That's too surreal." "That's because it's illusory to others," Qi Shaowen said boastfully. Old Wei was skeptical. He walked to Tang Zheng's side and saw him staring at the bronze cauldron with glowing eyes. "Young man, what do you see?" Old Wei asked curiously. "What's the origin of this thing?" Tang Zheng asked without looking up. "This is a bronze cauldron used for sacrificial rituals from 3,000 years ago. It has great research value," Old Wei said. Tang Zheng didn't care about the research value. He only found the flow of energy inside the bronze cauldron to be extremely attractive. He had already determined that this bronze cauldron was not a Dharma artifact, but an ordinary antique. However, it contained such a rich flow of air, and Tang Zheng had to figure out the reason for this. Originally, he thought that the flow of air in the bronze mask was just a coincidence. Now that it had appeared again, it was not a coincidence. It was inevitable. As long as he absorbed these streams of air, his power would advance by leaps and bounds. He would never let go of this opportunity. Noticing that Tang Zheng's expression was getting more and more serious, the other three's curiosity was piqued. Qi Shaowen asked, "Tang Zheng, is there a problem?" Tang Zheng shook his head and quickly found the other 4 antiques in the room. He asked them one by one what they were, and what they were used for in ancient times. Old Wei was already familiar with his collection, and answered them one by one. However, he had more and more questions in his heart. The few items that this young man had found so easily seemed to have something in common. Tang Zheng had already found this commonality, which was the sacrificial ceremony. These few items were all used for sacrificial ceremonies, including the bronze mask from yesterday. In other words, only the artifacts used in ancient sacrificial ceremonies would have such a unique aura. Ancient sacrificial ceremonies were often related to gods and the like. Therefore, the artifacts used for sacrificial ceremonies were probably imbued with this kind of spirituality. The flow of air in these artifacts was a kind of spiritual energy. This was similar to the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, but there were many differences. However, there was no doubt that it could improve Tang Zheng's cultivation. "Do you have any more of these sacrificial antiques in your shop?" asked Tang Zheng. Sacrificial ceremonies. Old Wei was enlightened. He finally understood what these things had in common. and that was that they were all sacrificial objects. "Why are you looking for these?" asked Old Wei suspiciously. Qi Shaowen chimed in. "There aren't many sacrificial artifacts in the market these past few years, and only a few have been unearthed over the years." Tang Jing couldn't help but feel disappointed when he heard that. "Young man, you haven't answered my question yet. Why are you looking for these things?" asked Old Wei, his eyes shining brightly. Tang Jing was taken aback. He was too excited and almost gave himself away. He quickly calmed himself down and said, "It's nothing. I'm just interested in these kinds of antiques." Qi Shaowen's eyes lit up and he laughed in his heart. Haha, he was indeed a genius. Even though he had rejected Old Wei's offer so bluntly, he was still fascinated by the antiques he was interested in. This was true professionalism. Old Wei was skeptical. He said, "Oh, very few people are interested in these kinds of antiques." Qi Shaowen retorted, "Old Wei, you're just being biased. In our line of work, we can be interested in anything. Why can't Tang Jing be interested in sacrificial artifacts?" Old Wei forced a smile and said, "That's rare." "Of course it's rare. Now you see it. This is his intuition. He has a natural sensitivity to antiques. None of us can compare to him." Old Wei sighed. Even he wouldn't have been able to identify all the sacrificial artifacts in the shop at a glance if he didn't have some prior knowledge of these antiques. After all, they were not of the same type. Could it be that his intuition was really that powerful? Li Xiaotian, on the other hand, watched this scene with great interest. She was also very interested in the cultivators. As a former expert in this world, she wanted to carefully understand what was so special about this group of people. "Can I touch these antiques?" Tang Jing asked. "Go ahead." Old Wei gestured. Tang Jing's fingers stroked the 4 antiques one by one. The 4 streams of energy were quickly absorbed into his body and transformed into true qi. In an instant, the true qi in his body reached 5 inches and 8 parts. He just needed to absorb a little more, and he would break through to the 6th grade of the foundation establishment stage. This was much faster than his cultivation speed. He carefully concealed the joy in his heart and returned to the 3-legged bronze cauldron. The others watched him with curiosity. They didn't understand his intentions. Li Xiaoyan's eyes narrowed into slits. Her intuition was much sharper than the other 2 old men. She gradually realized that Tang Jing's aura had changed. What's going on? He just touched the antiques. How could there be such a change? Li Xiaotian was puzzled. Tang Jing took a deep breath. His hands were placed on the outer wall of the 3-legged bronze cauldron. Suddenly, the spiritual power was like a small river. It flowed through his fingers and entered his body through his meridians. Wang. Suddenly, a deep sound echoed in his mind. He didn't understand what was going on. The spiritual power that flowed into his body didn't converge in his dantian. Instead, it quickly gathered in his left pocket. Sumeru pouch. Tang Jing suddenly realized that the spiritual power was actually converging in his Sumeru pouch. Moreover, it was rapidly being absorbed by his Sumeru pouch. Tang Jing was surprised. He quickly probed his divine sense into his Sumeru pouch. He found that the 9-revolving alchemy furnace was rapidly rotating. The spiritual power was actually being absorbed by it. Moreover, the 9-revolving alchemy furnace was emitting a bright light. The carvings of rare birds and strange beasts were vivid and lifelike. It was as if they were about to fly out of the furnace. Could it be that this spiritual power is very useful to the 9-revolving alchemy furnace, and can even upgrade its grade? Tang Jing guessed. In the blink of an eye, the 9-revolving alchemy furnace had completely absorbed the spiritual power. Its light increased and it was trembling nonstop like thunder. However, all of this was isolated by the Sumeru pouch. Besides Tang Jing, no one else was able to discover the slightest clue. So, suddenly, the light completely converged. The 9-revolving alchemy furnace also stopped rotating. However, Tang Jing's eyes bloomed with ecstasy. This was because the 9-revolving alchemy furnace had really been upgraded. From a yellow-grade artifact to a profound-grade artifact. This meant that the quality of the pills that Tang Jing refined in the future would be even higher. Tang Jing, what's wrong with you? The others saw that Tang Zheng seemed to be possessed and quickly shouted. As if waking up from a dream, Tang Zheng said, "I'm fine." "You still say you're fine? We called out to you so loudly just now and you didn't even respond. You scared us to death." Qi Shaowen complained. "Oh really? I'm sorry." Tang Zheng's mind was completely immersed in the 9 revolving alchemy furnace. He actually did not notice what was happening outside. Li Xiaotian looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated expression. "Where's Elder Wei?" Tang Zheng noticed that there was one person missing in the room. Qi Shaowen said, "He had an important guest to entertain, so he went out temporarily." "Tang Zheng, now you know the charm of archaeology?" This time, Tang Zheng did not immediately refute. Instead he asked, "Professor Qi, if I study under you, will I have the opportunity to come in contact with these kinds of antiques in the future?" "Of course I will. Let me tell you, as long as there's a major archaeological discovery in the country, I'll usually be there in person. Since you're interested in ritual objects, you can't let go of this great opportunity," Qi Shaowen said. Tang Zheng pondered. Without a doubt, if he studied archaeology under Qi Shaowen, it was very likely that he would come across similar antiques again. Then, he could absorb the spiritual energy in them, and it would be very beneficial to his cultivation. "All right, I promise you." Tang Zheng nodded. Qi Shaowen was so happy that he almost jumped up. He held Tang Zheng's hand tightly and said, "Haha, I knew you'd agree once you realized the charm. I was right about you. Don't worry, I'll pass on everything I've learned to you, so that you can bring archaeology to a new height." Li Xiaotian looked at Tang Zheng suspiciously. She did not know why he had changed so much. She felt that the more time she spent with Tang Zheng, the more mysterious he became. It took Qi Shaowen a long time to suppress his excitement. He kept explaining the origins of the other antiques in the room to Tang Zheng. He even told him that many of them were related to famous historical figures. Tang Zheng was unwittingly attracted. Although these antiques were not as useful to him as the ritual objects, they had their own unique charm. Gradually, Tang Zheng was attracted to them. He could not help but feel that he was wise to choose archaeology when he filled in his application form after the college entrance examination. Otherwise, he would have missed such a great opportunity. Chapter 339. The 3 of them were interrupted by the commotion. When they walked out, they found the atmosphere in the hall was heavy. A few shop assistants were on guard while Old Wei stood in front of a middle-aged man with a red face. This man was tall, with thick eyebrows and a resolute face. He exuded an aura that made one's heart palpitate. "Old Wei, I came here because I trusted you. But now that something like this has happened, my wife's life is in danger. Do you think I should tear down your shop?" The man said in a deep voice. His voice was magnetic, but it didn't lose its dignity. There was even a hint of suppressed anger. Old Wei hesitated for a long time before he said, "I also don't know why this happened. Could it be that your wife fell ill because of some other reason?" The man snorted and said, "I've invited the best doctors in the country, but they couldn't find a single clue. This means that this isn't a medical problem. It can only be something else. Moreover, she only had a relapse the day after I gave her the blood jade. If it wasn't because of the blood jade, what else could it be?" "Mr. Qin, the blood jade doesn't have such side effects," Old Wei explained patiently. "Is that so? But why did I hear that the blood jade is formed by absorbing fresh blood? It's not an auspicious item? Why didn't you tell me this when I bought it? If not, why would I choose a blood jade to give to my wife?" The man said angrily, "That's all nonsense. The bloody color in the blood jade is the result of the iron element, not blood." That's just your one-sided story. I, Qin Batian, don't like to bully others, but you've caused my wife's life to be in danger. Today, I have no choice but to be the bad guy." Qin Batian's face sank as he was about to make a move. Old Wei was so frightened that his legs went soft. Although he was famous in the antique industry, he didn't have any chance to retaliate against the person before him. The antique industry was filled with people from all walks of life. Thus, Old Wei understood the person before him very well. The other party was a true ferocious person. He came to Beijing alone more than 10 years ago. There were crouching tigers and hidden dragons in Beijing, but he relied on his own ability to make a name for himself. He was a person of the underworld, and was a well-known figure in the underworld of the capital. However, he had gradually retired from the underworld in recent years. Instead, he had turned to business and was doing very well. He was a legend, but there was another thing about him that people loved to talk about, and that was the relationship between him and his wife. Qin Batian wasn't as fickle as other people in the underworld. On the contrary, he was extremely devoted and was extremely protective of his wife. He was an extremely good man. This time, his wife's life was actually in danger. One could imagine how intense the anger in his heart was. Stop. Qi Shaowen was enraged when he saw his old friend being threatened. He had always been in the ivory tower and did not know who Qin Batian was, so he stepped forward without fear. Seeing this, Old Wei hurriedly stopped him. Mr. Qin, a man is responsible for his own actions. This is my friend, please don't make things difficult for him. If you really think that your wife's illness is related to the blood jade I sold, then I have nothing to say. I can only let you do whatever you want with me. Qi Shaowen bellowed. Old Wei, have you gone senile? The legends about the blood jade were all lies and lies. What era are we in now? Why do people still believe in such nonsense? Qin Batian didn't rush to make a move. Instead, he glanced at Qi Shaowen and said, Old man, there are many things in this world that you don't know. Science can't explain everything. Some things are far more mysterious than you can imagine. You may think that the blood jade isn't the cause, but I believe that the blood jade is. If you dare hurt him, I'll call the police. Qi Shaowen refused to budge. Don't call the police. Old Wei hurriedly shouted. Sigh, Old Qi, you guys should go back first. I'll deal with this myself. But his face was ashen. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that he couldn't deal with this. Tang Zheng roughly understood the whole story. This shop had sold a piece of blood jade to Qin Batian, which had caused his wife's life to be in danger. Tang Zheng didn't immediately deny Qin Batian's judgment. After all, he was a cultivator and knew very well that there were many mysterious things in this world. Moreover, didn't he just absorb spiritual energy from a few antiques? Hence, some antiques had unimaginable uses and dangers. Tang Zheng took a step forward, standing protectively in front of Qi Shaowen and Old Wei. He looked at Qin Batian and said, Mister, if you have something to say, let's talk it over. It's not right to attack an old man. Qin Batian's eyes narrowed as he stared at Tang Zheng. He asked in a low voice, Who are you? He's my student, my disciple. Qi Shaowen said impatiently. Qin Batian's eyes flashed like lightning. He saw that Tang Zheng was as calm as an abyss. He didn't show the slightest hint of fear in the face of Qin Batian's imposing aura. On the contrary, the aura Tang Zheng was exuding was not to be underestimated. Mr. Qin, this matter has nothing to do with Tang Zheng. He's still a student. Please don't lower yourself to his level. Old Wei saw that Tang Zheng had stepped forward bravely and hurriedly said. He was both moved and anxious. Tang Zheng, Qin Batian exclaimed. His gaze turned complicated as he asked suspiciously, You're Tang Zheng from Yenqing University? Huh. Tang Zheng was stunned. Qin Batian had actually heard of his name before. Qi Shaowen and Old Wei were also surprised. Could it be that Tang Zheng was very famous? Even this person knew of him. That's me, Tang Zheng admitted. Qin Batian said. I didn't expect to meet you under such circumstances. I've heard many things about you. My wife has also mentioned you before. You've even met once. But since you're here, I'll wait for 3 days. If my wife's condition doesn't improve, I'll really tear down the imperial treasury. The two old men were shocked. They didn't expect that the murderous Qin Batian would take the initiative to compromise after hearing Tang Zheng's name. Old Wei looked at Tang Zheng suspiciously. He couldn't see through him anymore. He asked in a low voice, Old Qi, what's the background of this disciple of yours? Qi Shaowen shook his head in confusion. He didn't know much about Tang Zheng. He also didn't know that just his name alone would have such a huge impact. It seems that the disciple I've accepted this time is not simple. Tang Zheng guessed. He was now infamous in the upper echelons of the capital. He didn't even give face to the Chu clan. Moreover, he had a mysterious master behind him. He was also the future son-in-law of the Ye family. No one would dare to underestimate him. This also showed that Qin Batian wasn't an ordinary person. However, he was curious about Qin Baishan's wife. He didn't know when he had met her, so he asked, "May I know who your wife is?" "Li Hongqing," Qin Batian said. "It's her." Tang Zheng suddenly realized. Wasn't Li Hongqing the private restaurant they had gone to for their dormitory party? Tang Zheng and Chu Xiaofeng had gotten into a conflict there. Li Hongqing had even given them a free meal. Li Hongqing was an ordinary person, but the person in front of him was definitely not ordinary. He was a true master. A master that even Tang Zheng couldn't see through. No wonder Li Hongqing dared to embarrass Chu Xiaofeng. It turned out that her husband was not simple. Hearing that Li Hongqing's life was in danger, and that it was related to antiques, Tang Zheng's interest was piqued. "I don't know if it's possible for me to pay your wife a visit. I know a little about medicine. I'd like to see if I can help." Qin Baishan's heart skipped a beat. He remembered the rumor that the king of medicine had once wanted to accept Tang Zheng as his disciple. It was also said that Tang Zheng's master was also a master of medicine. It was very likely that Tang Zheng's medical skills were also very good. Perhaps there really was a chance for Li Hongqing to survive. Qin Batian thanked him sincerely. "Thank you very much. With your help, perhaps Hongqing really does have a chance." Qi Shaowen and Old Wei were dumbfounded. Did this kid know medicine as well? He wasn't a medical student. He was an archaeologist. But judging from Qin Baishan's attitude, it was obvious that he trusted Tang Zheng's abilities. Old Wei couldn't help but sigh. "Old Qi, this disciple of yours isn't simple. If it weren't for him today, this shop of mine really would have closed down." Qi Shaowen patted his old friend's shoulder and chuckled. "Now you know that my disciple has made the right choice. Then there's no time to lose. Let's go now," Tang Zheng said. "Tang Zheng, I'll go with you. I also want to see what's going on with that blood jade," Old Wei said. "I'll go too. I've been an archaeologist for so many years, but I've never heard of anything like this. I want to see if it's true or not." Qi Shaowen still didn't believe that this was all because of a single blood jade. Li Xiaotian and Tang Zheng naturally didn't leave each other's side. Qin Batian looked at Li Xiaotian thoughtfully and agreed to their request. The group got into a car and sped towards the Qin residence. As soon as they entered the house, they heard a servant yelling, "Oh no, something happened to Madam. Madam has gone crazy. She wants to kill someone." Qin Baishan's face darkened. He shouted angrily, "What happened to Madam?" Seeing that the master of the house had returned, the servant said in a daze, "Madam suddenly woke up. Then she seemed to have gone crazy. She scratched and scratched everyone she saw. It was as if she wanted to kill someone." As she spoke, she raised her arm. Indeed, there were a few scratch marks on it. Qin Baishan's expression changed. He couldn't care less about the guests and rushed into the house. Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian didn't want to be left behind. They quickly chased after him. A piercing scream rang out. This was Li Hongqing's voice. Tang Zheng found it familiar, but this shrill scream was completely different from the one he saw at the private restaurant. Bang! There was the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. Then a figure rushed out. There was a flash of cold light. She held a kitchen knife in her hand and waved it in front of her face. Intermittent screams came from her mouth. In addition, her hair was disheveled and her face was strangely red. There was also a blood-red peace buckle hanging on her chest. It must be the blood jade. Chapter 340. This person was Li Hongqing. Tang Zheng couldn't see the slightest trace of her past temperament. He only felt a strange aura lingering around her, causing his heart to palpitate. What color is this? The others were also shocked, especially Qi Shaowen and Old Wei. No matter how they looked at it, this person seemed to have gone mad. Qin Batian had a pained expression as he called out to Hongqing and rushed over. Li Hongqing's face flashed with malevolence as she brandished the kitchen knife, viciously chopping towards Qin Batian. Qin Baishan's eyes flashed with shock. He didn't know why his wife wanted to kill him. However, Qin Batian grabbed onto his wife's wrist. Li Hongqing struggled with all her might, causing him to stagger and almost fall. Everyone couldn't help but cry out in shock. This was truly unexpected, but Qin Batian was an expert after all. His reaction speed was extremely fast as he dodged the kitchen knife and hugged his wife tightly. Li Hongqing continued to struggle as she let out a sharp roar. Her eyes turned red as though she wanted to devour someone. Hongqing, it's me. I'm Batian. What's wrong with you? Why did you become like this? Qin Batian asked bitterly. Li Hongqing turned a deaf ear to his words as she continued to struggle and scream. Why does it seem like she's possessed? Li Xiaotian asked hesitantly. Possessed? Everyone was shocked. That's right, Li Hongqing's appearance was very similar to that of the legendary evil. Qin Batian's heart turned cold. If it was a medical problem, it would still be fine. But this kind of mysterious problem wasn't so easy to solve. He looked towards Tang Zheng as though he was asking for help. Tang Zheng, do you have any ideas? Tang Zheng didn't reply as he directly walked over. His finger reached for the blood-red safety buckle. Li Hongqing was wearing pajamas, and the safety buckle was about to sink into the gap between her breasts. However, Tang Zheng didn't nod his head. Qin Batian had a suspicious look on his face, but he didn't stop him. When Tang Zheng's fingers came into contact with the blood jade, Li Hongqing's eyes suddenly flashed with a terrifying light. Her screams grew louder and louder as her strength abruptly increased. She actually managed to struggle free from Qin Batian's embrace as her fingers clawed towards Tang Zheng's face. Tang Zheng, be careful. Qi Shaowen shouted anxiously. Tang Zheng didn't move at all. His finger touched the center of Li Hongqing's forehead at lightning speed, and the scream came to an abrupt end. She was motionless as if she had been paralyzed. However, her face was still filled with a ferocious struggle, which was very frightening. The others were dumbfounded. This was simply like magic. The others didn't understand what was going on at all. Why was she so quiet with just a finger? Qin Batian's brows furrowed as a look of joy appeared on his face. Since Tang Zheng could control her, that meant that there was hope for him to cure her. Li Hongqing gradually closed her eyes, and her expression finally returned to normal. Tang Zheng reached out and removed the blood jade. It was extremely cold when he touched it. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. The finger he used just now wasn't as simple as it looked. When his fingertip touched Li Hongqing's skin, a crazy and cold spiritual energy instantly passed through his fingertip and into his body. If an ordinary person was entangled by this spiritual energy, they would definitely die. However, Tang Zheng's vital energy quickly dissolved this spiritual energy and converted it into his own vital energy. This spiritual energy was very similar to the spiritual energy that Tang Zheng had absorbed before, but it was more aggressive and cold. This spiritual energy was sent into her body by the blood jade. It was now lingering in her body, controlling her body and mind. Mr. Qin, please carry your wife back to her room. Tang Zheng temporarily controlled the yin energy in her body, causing her to fall into a coma again. Qin Batian hurriedly supported Li Hongqing as he anxiously asked, Tang Zheng, do you have a way to save her? Tang Zheng didn't make any guarantees as he lightly said, I have a clue, I will do my best. Hearing this, Qin Batian was overjoyed and couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. He was already at his wit's end, and was on the verge of despair. He didn't think that there would be a ray of hope. Tang Zheng, thank you. You saved my wife. I, Qin Batian, will definitely remember your kindness. Qin Batian emotionally said. Qi Shaowen originally wanted to stop Tang Zheng, telling him not to be so reckless. After all, saving a life wasn't something that could be done just by feeling. However, seeing how much Qin Batian trusted him, he swallowed the words that were at the tip of his tongue. He was also somewhat curious as to how Tang Zheng was going to save her. I wonder what kind of illness she is suffering from. Old Wei asked with concern as this was a matter of his responsibility. Tang Zheng opened his hand and the blood jade lay quietly in the middle of his palm, glowing with a rosy luster. He asked, Old Wei, what is the origin of this blood jade? Could it really be related to the blood jade? Old Wei's heart skipped a beat as Qi Shaowen also revealed a look of concern. Earlier, The two of them had solemnly vowed that there was nothing wrong with the blood jade. However, after seeing Li Hongqing's crazed state, their hearts began to pound like a drum. After all, they had never heard of an illness like hers. Qin Batian and Li Xiaotian were also quite curious as they looked at Tang Zheng, waiting for his answer. Tang Zheng nodded. It is indeed related to the blood jade. That's why I want to know the origin of this blood jade. Qi Shaoan and Old Wei's faces flushed red with guilt. They had been so confident just now, they didn't expect Qin Batian's judgment to be correct. Of course, no one doubted the veracity of Tang Zheng's judgment. After all, he had calmed Li Hongqing down with a single finger. That alone was enough to stun them. Old Wei pondered for a moment before explaining. This blood jade and the three-legged bronze cauldron were both antiques from the same place. They were both antiques from thousands of years ago. However, Old Wei couldn't find out how useful this blood jade actually was. However, there was no doubt that the blood jade's color and luster were excellent. Hence, it was one of the Imperial Treasury's treasures. A few days ago, Qin Batian had specially made a trip to the Imperial Treasury to pick out his wife's birthday present. Coincidentally, this blood jade had caught his eye. Because Li Hongqing was a jade lover, Qin Batian didn't know much about antiques and jades. He only thought that this blood jade was very beautiful, and thus bought it for his wife without hesitation. Li Hongqing also liked it very much. However, after wearing it for a few days, Li Hongqing fell into a semi-conscious state, and eventually fell into a coma. Li Hongqing's body was usually very healthy. Qin Batian thought for a long time before suspecting that this blood jade was related to her health. He took the blood jade from his wife's body and tied it up high. He didn't expect his wife to wake up and find the blood jade, and wear it on her chest. Then, was this blood jade used for rituals? Tang Zheng asked. Old Wei and Qi Shaoan looked at each other, and shook their heads in unison. We don't know about that. What's wrong with this blood jade? Why is it fine when it's in our shop, but this happened when Mr. Qin bought it? Tang Zheng already understood the reason. This blood jade was definitely related to rituals. Otherwise, it wouldn't have that kind of spiritual energy. However, this blood jade was obviously different from antiques like the bronze cauldron. This blood jade had indeed become like this after being soaked in fresh blood. Fresh blood represented slaughter. Hence, the spiritual energy contained in the jade was mixed with a lot of evil energy, causing the spiritual energy to become very aggressive. When the blood jade was in the Imperial Treasure House, it was placed very high, so of course it would not affect people much. However, Li Hongqing liked the blood jade very much, so she always carried it with her. This spiritual power seeped into her body, which caused such a big reaction. Of course, he didn't explain this reason. After all, the things involved were too inconceivable. Thus he said perfunctorily, I can be sure that her illness is related to this blood jade, but I can't say for sure. However, as long as she doesn't come into contact with the blood jade after she's cured, there won't be a problem. Qin Batian was a shrewd person. He instantly understood the perfunctory meaning in Tang Zheng's words. However, he didn't think too much about it. As long as Tang Zheng could cure his wife, everything else was insignificant. Old Wei apologized. Mr. Qin, I'm really sorry. I didn't know things would turn out like this. I've never encountered such a thing before. Qin Batian saw that Tang Zheng had a close relationship with the other party. Although he was still a little angry, he didn't flare up. He said, no one knew about this beforehand, so I won't blame anyone. I only asked that Hongqing's illness be cured. Old Wei heaved a sigh of relief. If he didn't get Qin Batian's forgiveness, then his imperial treasury would really come to an end. He couldn't help but look deeply at Tang Zheng, unable to hide his gratitude. Seeing his old friend's expression, Qi Shaoan felt proud. After all, Tang Zheng was his disciple. Although he wasn't the one who taught his disciple, he was still very proud and happy that his disciple was so capable. Tang Zheng, when will the treatment begin? Qin Batian couldn't wait to ask. The few of them went to Li Hongqing's bedroom. She was like a baby sleeping soundly. Her face was peaceful, and there was no trace of the ferocious and terrifying look from before. You all go out first. I want to treat her alone. No matter what you hear, you are not allowed to come in without my permission. Tang Zheng said in a low voice. A single man and a single woman in the same room. It was unavoidable that one's imagination would run wild. Qi Shaowen felt that it was inappropriate, and was about to persuade him when Qin Batian said, "No problem. We'll go out right away. If you need anything, just call me. No one will disturb your treatment." Tang Jing nodded inwardly. "I'll stay and help." Suddenly Li Xiaotian said. Everyone looked at her in unison, but Li Xiaotian was looking seriously at Tang Zheng. Obviously, she wanted to know more about Tang Zheng. She didn't want to let go of such a good opportunity. And during the treatment of Li Hongqing, it would definitely involve many secrets of the cultivators. Seeing her resolute expression, there was no room for negotiation. Tang Zheng hesitated for a moment before nodding. In any case, she knew his identity. It wouldn't be a problem for her to witness the treatment. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if she really made a scene. The others naturally didn't have any objections. After a while, they all retreated. Qin Batian stood guard not far from the door, not allowing anyone to disturb them. Chapter 341. The room quieted down. Li Xiaotian looked at Tang Zheng and asked, "What are you going to do now?" "Just watch, but don't make a fuss. What's the point of just breaking the skin?" Tang Zheng reminded him. Li Xiaotian pursed his lips and said, "Don't worry, I'm not a blabbermouth. I'd like to see what tricks you have up your sleeve." Tang Zheng walked to the front of the bed. Li Hongqing was a charming young woman in her 30s, which was the age when she was full of charm, but at this moment, she was just a patient in Tang Zheng's eyes. Tang Zheng stooped down expressionlessly and pressed a few points on her body. Her eyes immediately opened, revealing a murderous aura. "Ah!" She screamed and sat up straight. She immediately threw herself at Tang Zheng, but Tang Zheng's palm landed on her head. Whoosh! Her face immediately turned a strange shade of red, and her body glowed red. The temperature in the room plummeted, sending chills down one's spine. Li Xiaoyan's eyes widened as he watched. He didn't know why there was such a huge reaction. How would Tang Zheng deal with it? Tang Zheng urged his power, and the true qi continuously flowed from the top of her head into his body, as if he was suddenly enlightened. Li Hongqing's screams grew louder and louder, as if she wanted to rip the roof off. Tang Zheng remained expressionless. Li Xiaotian wanted to stop him, but he remembered Tang Zheng's instructions and held himself back. Outside the room, Qin Batian was pacing back and forth. When he heard his wife's screams, his body trembled. He wanted to rush in and share her pain, but he held himself back and looked anxiously at the door. Old Wei and Qi Shaowen exchanged glances. Old Wei asked worriedly, "Old Qi, how much do you know about your disciple?" Qi Shaowen only knew that Tang Zheng was talented in archaeology, but knew nothing about other things. He shook his head resentfully. Old Wei glanced at Qin Batian and hesitantly asked, "Mr. Qin, what is the identity of this Tang Zheng?" Qin Batian halted his steps as he stared at the two of them in bewilderment. Tang Zheng stood out for them, yet they didn't know about Tang Zheng's identity. How strange. Of course, he was not one to casually judge others, so he did not reveal Tang Zheng's identity. He simply said, "In short, he is not an ordinary person." Old Wei understood the meaning behind Qin Batian's words. Even Qin Batian didn't dare to underestimate Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng's identity was simply too mysterious. He sighed to Qi Shaowen. "Old Qi, you've really taken in a good disciple." "Of course." Qi Shaowen was a little smug. Inside the bedroom, the screams grew softer and softer. The red light on Li Hongqing's body grew brighter and brighter. But this didn't mean that her situation was getting worse. Instead, it meant that the red light was being forced out of her body. Tang Zheng continued to circulate his inner energy, slowly extracting the red light from her body. Suddenly, Tang Zheng let out a low shout and slapped her back. Bang! With a muffled sound, Li Hongqing's body fell forward. With a whoosh, the red light left Li Hongqing's body and soared into the air, hovering above the ceiling. Li Hongqing closed her eyes and fell back into a deep sleep. Her expression was serene, without a trace of the ferocious expression she had just now. Li Xiaotian watched this scene in astonishment, especially when she saw the red light on the ceiling. She couldn't contain her excitement. It was impossible for a martial artist's healing to appear like this. Only the world of cultivators could be so colorful. She couldn't help but exclaim, "I'm a little envious of you. This kind of supernatural power far surpasses that of a martial artist." Tang Zheng didn't answer. Instead, he stared at the red light and thought to himself, the blood jade has been absorbing spiritual energy for thousands of years to nourish this thing. This red light was a consciousness nourished by the blood jade's spiritual energy. In other words, the blood jade was about to become a spirit. However, even if it had become a spirit, it was still too vicious. It was definitely not a kind soul, which was why it harmed Li Hongqing. This thing can't be left alive. Moreover, I can increase my cultivation by absorbing this spiritual energy, killing two birds with one stone. Why not? The red light seemed to have sensed the threat that Tang Zheng posed to it. It hesitated on the roof, but the room's doors and windows were tightly shut. The red light had no chance of escaping. What is this thing? Li Xiaotian asked curiously. Tang Zheng turned a deaf ear. Li Xiaotian pursed her lips and said, "Forget it if you don't want to tell me. How are you going to deal with it? I don't think it's a living thing. It won't be easy for you to destroy it." Tang Zheng smiled mysteriously. "Then watch carefully." Tang Zheng jumped and pounced on the red light. The red light moved quickly and retreated a few meters in the blink of an eye. However, in this narrow space, Tang Zheng's movements were more agile. One retreating and one advancing, Tang Zheng's figure was like a ghost. He forced the red light into a corner in a flash. Then he pounced on it with all his strength and grabbed at it with both hands. The red light tried to break out, but its strength was too weak. It was only a weak consciousness nourished by the blood jade. It relied on its instincts to do things. In fact, it was no match for a smart person like Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng's big hand completely blocked the red light's path of retreat. Then he grabbed the red light. The light originally did not have a physical body, but when Tang Zheng grabbed it, it was unable to quickly break free. Tang Zheng silently operated the Heart Sutra. His palm turned into a whirlpool. The airflow in the room changed rapidly and was constantly sucked into his palm. The red light wanted to escape, but Tang Zheng's palm was like a black hole, making it unable to escape. Whoosh! When the last trace of red light disappeared, Tang Zheng's face could not help but show a trace of red, but it immediately returned to normal. "How are you?" Li Xiaotian quickly asked. Tang Zheng was silent. He sat cross-legged on the chair and closed his eyes. This red light contained a strong spiritual power. In an instant it rushed into Tang Zheng's dantian. He must immediately operate the ancient Clear Heaven Scroll and transform this spiritual power into true qi. So he did not have time to explain to Li Xiaotian. Of course, he was not worried that Li Xiaotian would have any malicious actions towards him. His strength was not as good as Li Xiaotian's. If Li Xiaotian wanted to harm him, Li Xiaotian could do it at any time. There was no need to wait for him to cultivate. Seeing that Tang Zheng did not say a word and seemed to be cultivating, Li Xiaotian curiously opened her eyes wide. She could guess that the red light was helpful to his cultivation, but she was not clear about the reason. "He seems to be very assured of me. He is not afraid that I will harm him," Li Xiaotian said in her heart. She also sat to the side and stared at Tang Zheng. Little by little, the spiritual power was transformed into true qi. The true qi in his body rose steadily. It quickly crossed the threshold of the 6th grade foundation establishment and continued to rise. The spiritual power in this blood jade is much richer than the spiritual power I absorbed before. Tang Zheng secretly exclaimed. "Oh!" The air around his body quickly fluctuated, like a small whirlpool, stirring the surrounding air into chaos. Tang Zheng refined the spiritual power, while also absorbing the remaining spiritual power in the blood jade. He intended to refine all of the spiritual power in one go. This time, his true qi was like a straight line that quickly rose up. After a while, it broke through to 7 inches. He actually reached the 7th grade foundation establishment. Even he himself felt that it was inconceivable. The spiritual power in this blood jade was too abundant. But at this point, All of the spiritual power had been refined by him. He opened his eyes and found that Li Xiaotian was squatting in front of him. His eyes were wide open as he stared at him. Tang Zheng was startled and asked, "What are you doing? Why do I feel that your power has increased again?" Li Xiaotian couldn't see through Tang Zheng's cultivation. This was just a kind of intuition. Tang Zheng didn't deny it and said with a smile, "Is this a woman's sixth sense? But it feels very right." Li Xiaotian was bewildered and said, "Could it be because you absorbed that red light?" Seeing Tang Zheng nod, Li Xiaotian sighed. Cultivators are really a powerful existence. No wonder when cultivators and martial artists coexisted, cultivators were superior. You don't need to be afraid. Nowadays, the strength of martial artists can't be underestimated. For example, am I not your opponent now? Li Xiaotian curled his lips and said, "Don't think that I don't know about you. How many days have you been cultivating and how many years have I been practicing martial arts? There is simply no comparison." Tang Zheng sighed. This two-faced woman really understood. With his speed, ordinary martial artists would definitely be unable to catch up. Even many cultivators would find it difficult to catch up. After all, he was the legendary Skywalker, a kind of abnormal cultivation genius. The more I know about cultivators, the more I feel that what the martial organization is doing is right. People like you are too dangerous. We must not let you grow stronger. Tang Zheng was speechless. Was there a need to be so serious? I have to correct your point of view. Cultivators and martial artists are the same. They are all human. You don't have to decide whether we are suitable to survive in this world, because this is our right. Tang Zheng argued. Li Xiaotian smiled coldly and said, "If I really fully agree with the martial organization, you would be dead by now. Why would I talk nonsense with you?" Tang Zheng shivered. Indeed, the situation was not too bad. "How is she now?" Li Xiaotian pointed at Li Hongqing and asked. "She has already recovered. The main thing is that the red light controlled her body and mind, which is why this phenomenon occurred. And you can think of this as being possessed." Tang Zheng found an easy-to-understand explanation. "I forgot to tell you. This Qin Batian is not an ordinary person. You saved his wife. I think he will be deeply grateful to you in the future." Li Xiaotian grasped a lot of information. When he knew Qin Batian's name, he naturally remembered the information about him. Tang Zheng did not feel much. He did not save people to ask for anything in return. Moreover, the Blood Jade's spiritual power had benefited him a lot. Other benefits were secondary. Li Hongqing suddenly moved, and the two of them stopped talking. They looked at the bed together, only to see Li Hongqing slowly wake up. When she saw Tang Zheng, she couldn't help but exclaim, "Hey Tang Zheng, why are you in my house?" Chapter 342. Tang Zheng smiled and advised, "Don't move so quickly. Your body is very weak. I'll call Mr. Qin in. What's the point of breaking your skin?" Tang Zheng pushed open the door and said, "You can come in now." Qin Batian rushed in like a gust of wind. When he saw his wife lying on the bed with her eyes open, he was pleasantly surprised and said excitedly, "Hongqing, you've recovered." Li Hongqing looked at her husband suspiciously and asked, "What happened to me?" "You don't remember?" Li Hongqing was at a loss and said, "I don't know what happened." Tang Zheng explained, "It's good that you don't remember. Rest well for a few days and you'll be fine." Qin Batian turned to Tang Zheng and said, "Tang Zheng, I really don't know how to thank you. If you need anything in the future, I, Qin Batian, will do my best to help." Tang Zheng smiled faintly and said, "Mr. Qin, you're too kind. It's just a small matter." Li Hongqing was still at a loss, but it was obvious that Tang Zheng had done something extraordinary to make her husband lose his composure. Qi Shaowen and Old Wei were completely relieved. Li Hongqing was saved and the Imperial Treasure House's reputation was saved. "Mr. Qin, I'll return this blood jade to its rightful owner." Tang Zheng spread out his hands and said. Qin Batian looked at the blood jade cautiously and didn't reach out to take it. He regretted buying this blood jade and letting his wife go through so much suffering. "This thing." Qin Batian stuttered. Tang Zheng knew what he was worried about and explained, "This blood jade is no longer dangerous." Li Hongqing looked at the blood jade and said in surprise, "Isn't this the blood jade you gave me? Since Boss Li likes it so much, I'll return it to its rightful owner." Tang Zheng had no use for the blood jade, so he directly handed it to Li Hongqing. Qin Batian wanted to refuse, but when he saw his wife's heartfelt joy, he swallowed his words. Since Tang Zheng said that blood jade would not cause any more trouble, he was relieved. "It's getting late, I'll get someone to prepare a meal. Today, I must drink with you to my heart's content," Qin Batian said in a heroic manner. Tang Zheng waved his hand. "No, Boss Li is still very weak. You should spend more time with her. I have to go back to school." Qin Batian tried to persuade them to stay, but seeing that the other party had already made up his mind, he didn't continue persuading them. Only after sending them out of the district did he stop. Tang Zheng noticed that Qi Shaowen and Old Wei were looking at him strangely. It was as if they were trying to figure him out like a Xiaobai rat. In the end, Qi Shaowen couldn't help but ask, "Tang Zheng, how did you become so capable? You even know how to heal people?" Tang Zheng smiled embarrassedly. "I once learned a little from a country bum. If that's what you've learned, then the doctors in those hospitals are nothing." Qi Shaowen didn't believe him. Tang Zheng's skills were eye-opening. Old Wei was old and experienced, and he already knew that Tang Zheng was not an ordinary person. He wanted to be close to him, so he hurriedly smoothed things over and said, "Old Qi, you don't need to care about these small details. For you to have taken in such a good disciple, it really is your fortune from 8 lifetimes. You should be happy." Qi Shaowen couldn't hide his joy. "Of course I'm happy. Tang Zheng, this time you saved me from a disaster. If it weren't for you, I really don't know what would have happened. So I really don't know how to thank you." Old Wei said sincerely. Tang Zheng smiled. "You're Professor Qi's good friend. This is what I should do." At such a young age, he was neither arrogant nor rash. His magnanimity was commendable. The two old men couldn't help but praise him. At noon, Old Wei treated them to a sumptuous lunch to express his gratitude. After that, Tang Zheng and the other two returned to Yanqing University. Qi Shaowen accepted his only disciple with satisfaction. He reminded Tang Zheng to study hard, and then went back to his office happily. Tang Zheng went back to his dorm. Li Xiaotian couldn't enter the male dorm, so he wandered around the campus. When Tang Zheng returned to his dorm, the three of them stared at him as if he was a monster. Tang Zheng was puzzled. He asked, "Why are you three looking at me like that? Third brother, are you going to let us live? What's wrong? Professor Qi pestered you to be his disciple. Is this true?" Zhou Yan asked. Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Don't make it sound so bad. What do you mean by pestering?" Sinosaurus put his arm around Tang Zheng's shoulder and said enviously, "TSK, don't think that we don't know what happened because we weren't there. That's right next to the archaeology department's building. So many archaeology students were watching. It's useless for you to deny it." Wang Shiji continued, "I heard that Professor Qi wants you to study for a master's degree and a doctorate? You don't know how difficult it is to get a master's degree and a doctorate at Yanqing University. You can study for a master's degree and a doctorate without taking the exam. Many people are jealous." Zhou Yan laughed. "What's the use of being jealous? This is our third brother's ability. Let them be jealous. By the way, this matter has spread throughout the archaeology department. Now you're a real badass. From the dean to every archaeology student, they all know your name, Tang Zheng." Tang Zheng was speechless. He did not want to be famous, so he hurriedly said, "Keep a low profile, keep a low profile. If you want to keep a low profile, then treat us to a meal. You must use delicious food to shut our mouths. Otherwise, we will spread your embarrassing news outside and damage your glorious image." Sinosaurus laughed sinisterly. "Wow, I couldn't ask for anything more," Tang Zheng said. "Damn OL3, you're too stingy. You're actually willing to sacrifice your reputation for a lifetime, and can't even bear to part with a meal?" The few of them fought for a while, and finally extorted a meal from Tang Zheng before stopping. There were no classes in the afternoon, So Tang Zheng rested in his dorm and slowly recalled his gains today. The 9 revolving pill furnace had already been transformed into a profound level magic treasure, and it had been a while since he had refined pills. In order to not let this skill become rusty, he had to refine some pills. But what kind of pills should he refine? He had not used up all the spirit-gathering pills. Moreover, he needed to use Ling Air to refine the spirit-gathering pills. Ling Air was still in the ordinary balance, so she could not refine the spirit-gathering pills. Other than the spirit-gathering pill, he had only refined the life-continuing pill. However, the life-continuing pill was extremely precious to ordinary people, but it was not of much use to him. He did not want to waste his energy on it, and he did not have the heaven-fragrant flower on him, so he was unable to refine it. F***ck he died again. The opponent is too strong, he was instantly killed. Suddenly Sinosaurus shouted, interrupting Tang Zheng's thoughts. Second brother, you're so bad at playing games, yet you still ran up to die for others. Don't you feel stifled? Zhou teased. I've only just started playing this game. In a few days when I'm proficient, I'll be the one torturing others. Sinosaurus retorted. Wang Shiji shifted his gaze away from the book and glanced at the game screen. He shook his head and said, Second brother, I think studying is more important. After all, the game is fake. Boss, you're really boring. Although the game is fake, isn't it great to imagine yourself as a character? If I had the ability to turn the world upside down, then I would be so happy. Sinosaurus said. Dream on. Haha, I'm just dreaming. People have to dream a little, so that life won't be so boring. Sinosaurus did not mind. When Tang Zheng heard this, his heart stirred. Without a doubt, men would yearn to become stronger, and his 3 roommates were no exception. Originally, Tang Zheng did not wish to interfere with the trajectory of their lives, but ever since the demon god's blood essence fused into their bodies, it seemed that their trajectories had deviated. I'll definitely meet all kinds of opponents in the future. If they get caught in the crossfire, then wouldn't I be harming them? Moreover, they have the demon god's blood essence in their bodies. Although I've suppressed it, who knows when it will erupt? In addition, although Tang Zheng did not want to admit it, the world's cultivators were faintly showing signs of becoming stronger. Although Tang Zheng was very reluctant to admit it, Tian Chanzi and the demon god both wanted the cultivators to return. Tang Zheng did not have absolute confidence to stop the two. If one day, the cultivators returned, what if a war broke out? Did he have the ability to completely protect the people around him? After careful consideration, the answer was obviously no. The only way for them to be protected in the war was to increase their strength. Of course, Tang Zheng was a cultivator. It was impossible for him to turn them into warriors. Wouldn't that be cultivating enemies for himself? However, the current situation was not clear. This world was still dominated by warriors. It was impossible to rashly turn them into cultivators, because it would only harm them. But he had to make preparations in advance. Otherwise, if he waited until the last minute, they could only be rookie cultivators at most. They would not be able to protect themselves. In addition, even though his grandfather had an extra 10 years of life, if he wanted to live longer, he couldn't stop here. The life-continuing pill wasn't a long-term solution. The most important thing was to change the old man's body and turn him into a cultivator. That was the final solution. In the past, Tang Zheng was wavering, but after experiencing more and more things, he gradually adapted to his identity as a cultivator and accepted it. However, all of this was easy to say, but not so easy to do. He racked his brains, and studied the information in his mind countless times. Suddenly, a pill recipe appeared in his mind. This pill recipe was passed on to him by Tian Chanzi. It was called the Peiyuan pill. The function of the Peiyuan pill was to consolidate one's foundation and build a foundation for cultivation. It would subtly improve a person's physique, which would be more beneficial for cultivation. The Peiyuan pill was not very useful for people who had already become cultivators. It was most useful for people who wanted to become cultivators. This was because it was to build a foundation for them. Once their foundation was solid, they would be able to cultivate the corresponding techniques with half the effort. This is it. I want to refine the Peiyuan pill. Firstly, I want to consolidate my alchemy skills. Secondly, I want to prepare for a rainy day and make plans for the future of the people around me. The three people in room 502 were completely unaware that their life trajectory had undergone a huge change at this moment. Because of Tang Zheng's thoughts, they would embark on a completely different path. Chapter 343. The next day, there was a small plate of peanut-sized snacks in room 502. Sinosaurus walked in and casually grabbed one and asked, "Third brother, what is this?" "A friend gave it to me as a specialty. Gaba's products are passed down," Tang Zheng casually said. "Specialty? Why does it taste like candy? Is it delicious?" "It's alright, try it," Tang Zheng suggested. Sinosaurus threw one into his mouth, but it did not melt in his mouth. Instead, it made crunching sounds as he chewed, but it was still very fragrant. Sinosaurus's eyes lit up. It's quite delicious." "Eat more if it's delicious." "That's right. Remember to leave some for boss and fourth brother." Tang Zheng gave a knowing smile. Of course these were good things. These were all Peiyuan Dan that he refined, and the raw materials for the Peiyuan Dan did not require expensive medicinal ingredients, which was why he was able to refine them in such large quantities. Moreover, after the 9 revolving pill furnace was upgraded, refining pills was much faster. He could even refine pills in his Sumeru pouch, which was very convenient. These 100 origin cultivating pills were the result of his night's work. Origin cultivating pills were not like life continuing pills or spirit gathering pills. Origin cultivating pills could be eaten in large quantities at one time, so it did not cause any harm to the body. It was just like a small snack. Therefore, Tang Zheng used such a crude method. He directly threw them in the room for everyone to eat as snacks. It could also be considered as testing the origin cultivating pill's medicinal properties. Tang Zheng silently observed Sinosaurus, who had eaten the origin cultivating pills. He found that there were not many abnormal changes in his body, so he was relieved. The origin cultivating pills had long-term effects. If there was a significant change after eating it once, Tang Zheng did not dare to give it to them in order to avoid others finding out. Zhou Yan and Wang Shiji also came back and shouted, "Second brother, what are you eating? Why are you eating so happily?" "Here, third brother's friend gave me a specialty. Don't say that I ate it alone, I left it all for you guys," Sinosaurus said. "Third brother is good, he didn't forget his brothers. Second brother, you were too ruthless last night, ordering such expensive dishes," Wang Shiji complained. "Damn! I saw that you were eating the most enthusiastically, and you said that my food was expensive. Haha, third brother doesn't lack money. You won't be able to make him poor." Zhou Yan laughed out loud. He casually threw a Peiyuan Dan into his mouth and said, I've never eaten this kind of snack before. It's delicious. Third brother, next time, ask your friend to bring more. I'll pay for it. I don't have a lot, so I can't sell them. I can only go to him occasionally to get some as snacks for us, Tang Zheng said. Sigh, what a pity. If this thing enters the market, its sales will definitely not be bad. We can make a fortune, Zhou Yan said. Tang Zheng smiled. This was a good thing for ordinary people. Not only could it improve one's physique, it could also prolong one's life. Tang Zheng could be generous to a few of his brothers, but he would not be so generous to others. Moreover, if this thing were to spread out, it would not be a good thing for him. For the next few days, Tang Zheng's life was very regular. During the day, he went to class, but Li Xiaotian still followed him around like a burden. Yi Dingdong's pursuit of him was even more intense. Moreover, with Feng Xinyang's guidance, the relationship between the two became much closer. During this period, Tang Zheng and Feng Shishir video called several times, which made his roommates cry out that it was unfair. He actually had such a beautiful girlfriend abroad. Lu Qingmei was still looking for a new job. Xiao Bai accompanied her all day and did not encounter any danger. Qi Shaowen attached great importance to his apprentice. He dragged Tang Zheng to Panjiayuan a few more times and visited all the antique shops. He also explained his archaeological knowledge to Tang Zheng on the spot. Tang Zheng learned a lot, But it was a pity that he didn't come across any more antiques related to sacrificial rituals. On this day, Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian just came out of the teaching building after class when they saw Feng Xinyang walking toward them. Feng Xinyang looked serious and said in a deep voice, "Little handsome, hurry up and leave." Tang Zheng did not understand and asked, "Aunt Feng, what happened?" "The Wuzong people are here," Feng Xinyang said with some trepidation and glanced at Li Xiaotian next to her. "Who are they?" Li Xiaotian asked. Feng Xinyang shook her head. "We don't know much about the Wuzong, but according to reliable information, the Wuzong people have already arrived in the capital." Tang Zheng faintly smiled and said, "If you want to come, then come. Can I still hide? Besides, I am not the target of the Wuzong. The martial organization must have come because of the devil god, but the devil god had already disappeared without a trace. There were no traces of him in the school, and it was said that the school had already informed Gao Daji's parents of his disappearance. Gao Daji's parents could be considered to be a rich and powerful family in Changheng City. They even came to the school to cause a ruckus, but in the end, it was hastily settled." Feng Xinyang wanted to say something but stopped. She glanced at Li Xiaotian and held back. She was worried that the ordinary balance people would be exposed. After all, the Wuzong people had died in their hands. Also, the Wuzong people were not weak. She might not be a match for them. Li Xiaotian looked at Tang Zheng with a smile that was not a smile. It was as if he was saying that he was the target of the Wuzong, yet he was still so calm. He was really brave. Tang Zheng was not worried at all. He had already thought it through. Sooner or later, he and the Wuzong would have a conflict. Whether it was a blessing or a curse, he could not avoid it. He simply opened the door to welcome the guests. On the contrary, it seemed open and aboveboard. It would not arouse any suspicion. Before the few of them could say a few more words, they were attracted by the two people who were quickly walking over from the distance. This was because one of them was an old acquaintance, Marshall. However, this time the most eye-catching person was not Marshall, but the old man beside her. This person walked like a dragon or a tiger. His strides were very big. His body was even a little uncoordinated. It was because his bones were abnormally big that he looked like he was fat. However, he was really not fat. The key was his aura. These experts could see that he was an expert. This person was definitely an expert. The people from the martial sect came so quickly. Feng Xinyang frowned and sighed. Li Xiaotian laughed and introduced in a low voice. "This person is the third elder of the martial sect. He is a true great master expert." The Li Palace's intelligence network was very developed, so of course they had a good understanding of the martial sect. When Tang Zheng and Feng Xinyang heard this, their hearts sank. It was no wonder that the large families did not dare to go against these mysterious organizations. The other party only had a third elder, and he was already a martial scholar expert. Who knows how many more powerful people there were? This was not something that the large families could contend against. While they were talking, Wu and the third elder had already arrived in front of the three of them. Wu's injuries had already healed, and he looked at Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian with a complicated expression. This time, she was heavily injured by the demon god, causing the martial sect's sect master to be furious. Thus, he directly sent the third elder to deal with this matter. Furthermore, he had secretly given her a new mission. Since the demon god had appeared in the capital, then maybe the cultivator who was good at using the divine bow in the valley would also appear. The sect master's order was to find this mysterious cultivator, and it was even more important than the mission of hunting demons. However, only Wu knew about this mission. Even the third elder did not know about it. Marshall was very curious. Just who was this mysterious cultivator, to actually make the sect master value him so highly? She couldn't help but remember the jade pendant hanging on that person's chest. The word Marshall on it was deeply imprinted in her mind, unable to be erased. That person is a cultivator. Why would he have something from the martial sect? Wu was puzzled and could only temporarily suppress the doubts in his heart. Seeing Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian standing together, Wu couldn't help but frown. Why were the two of them together? What exactly was Li Xiaotian trying to do? Wu and Li Xiaotian were the best of the younger generation in the three great organizations, and would occasionally be compared by the elders. Without a doubt, the two of them were rare martial arts geniuses, and it was said that in terms of strategy, Li Xiaotian was even better. You are Tang Zheng? The third elder stared at Tang Zheng and asked in a deep voice. Tang Zheng nodded. I wonder what business do you have with me? Do you know the whereabouts of the demon god? The third elder went straight to the point. I don't know. The third elder's gaze was like lightning as he coldly snorted. Humph, you're not telling the truth, right? I have plenty of ways to make you speak. With that said, the third elder's big hand grabbed towards Tang Zheng. His joints were thick, as if he was made of steel. Tang Zheng immediately retreated, his face darkening, and said, What are you doing? If I catch you, you will naturally speak the truth. The third elder said. Are you still being reasonable? I don't know the demon god. Why are you so sure that I know his whereabouts? Tang Zheng asked angrily. You have fought with the demon god, so you are suspicious. I suspect that the demon god has an accomplice, otherwise, how could he quietly hide? Tang Zheng rolled his eyes and said, Are you an idiot? If I was in cahoots with the demon god, would he still kill me? The third elder had never been scolded like this before. Immediately, his old face turned into the color of a pig's liver. He flew into a rage and said, You are courting death. A palm swept over. The wind from the palm was biting cold, as if it wanted to blow people away. A tender shout sounded out as Feng Xinyang stood in front of Tang Zheng to protect him without hesitation as she used the wind-fire blade. Bang! Feng Xinyang flew out and fell to the ground, spitting out blood. Tang Zheng was shocked. The third elder was really ruthless. Even a Xiantian warrior like Feng Xinyang was injured like this. If he had taken that palm, who knew what would have happened? Immediately, he was shocked and angry. He rushed over to help Feng Xinyang up and asked, Aunt Feng, how are you? Feng Xinyang's face was pale. She thought that a grandmaster was indeed not someone ordinary people could compete with. The other party obviously did not use his full strength just now, or she would have gone to see the king of hell. However, the other party's unscrupulous attack made her angry. She also lost her temper. With the help of Tang Zheng, she stood up and said, I'm not dead yet. Then she glared at the third elder and said, You old thing, you are so ruthless. Did Tang Zheng provoke you? Are you going to kill him? Humph, martial arts sect, everyone is afraid of your martial arts sect. Do you really think you are the king? You have the power to control the life and death of others. Bah, you really think highly of yourselves. Let me tell you, I am not afraid of you. If you want to deal with my son-in-law Tang Zheng, you have to step over my dead body first. Chapter 344. When the few of them heard Feng Xinyang's string of curses, they were immediately stunned. Even Wu looked at Feng Xinyang in disbelief. Guba Tian Zhuanji. Feng Xinyang's temper had always been fearless. Back then, she dared to contradict Yi Xuanji, but after coming to the capital, her fiery personality had been restrained a lot. However, deep down she was still the original Feng Xinyang. This time, the third elder's sudden attack had finally ignited this barrel of gunpowder. She couldn't care about anything else and first cursed. This time, she had vented her anger. However, the third elder's face turned from red to green. It was as if he had changed his face. It was extremely terrifying. Li Xiaotian said with a smile that was not a smile. There's a good show to watch now. As expected, the third elder roared. His body was like a flood dragon as he attacked Feng Xinyang. He was determined to kill her in one strike. Aunt Feng, quickly retreat. Tang Zheng leaped and blocked in front of Feng Xinyang. Because the opponent's fist intent enveloped him, it was impossible for him to escape unscathed. Therefore, Tang Zheng could only step forward bravely to buy time for Feng Xinyang to retreat. Seeing Tang Zheng risking his life to save her, Feng Xinyang shouted, Little handsome brother, move aside. However, Tang Zheng had already gathered all the true qi in his body and poured it into his palm. When the fist and palm met, there was no heaven-shaking muffled sound. However, Tang Zheng's cheeks instantly turned red and then turned pale. He was as white as a piece of white paper. His arm broke under this punch. The sound of bones breaking could be heard. He endured the pain and did not cry out. However, everyone could feel the pain that went deep into his heart. Moreover, the opponent's endless power was still seeping into his arm and reaching his heart. It was about to break his heart meridians. This third elder was indeed merciless. It was a killing move. Feeling the surging inner strength, a trace of despair flashed through Tang Zheng's heart. Could it be that he was going to die like this? In the end, he still died at the hands of the martial sect. Whoosh! Tang Zheng's palm produced a huge attractive force, and the inner strength disappeared without a trace, as if it had never appeared. The third elder turned pale with fright. What was going on? How did his inner strength disappear? He hurriedly withdrew his fist and retreated, looking at Tang Zheng in disbelief. The others did not know the details, and also looked at Tang Zheng in surprise. After all, everyone had witnessed the power of the punch just now. However, Tang Zheng had only lost an arm, and his foundation had not been injured. This was too unbelievable. Tang Zheng was also very surprised, but he immediately understood what was going on. This was the effect of the sky-devouring technique. He had snatched the devil race's cultivation method from Takashi's hands. On a whim, he had cultivated the heaven-devouring technique. Back then, the heaven-devouring technique had sucked away a few chairs and disappeared. He had once fantasized about being able to suck away the enemy and make them disappear. He did not expect that the heaven-devouring technique would automatically activate this time. However, it did not suck away the enemy. Instead, it sucked away the enemy's inner strength, saving Tang Zheng's life. However, this was also an unexpected surprise. He suppressed the joy in his heart and looked at his arm. He immediately frowned. The bones in his arm were all shattered. This time he had suffered greatly. Feng Xinyang seemed to have woken up from a dream and hurriedly asked, "Tang Zheng, your arm is broken. Do you have any other injuries?" Tang Zheng shook his head, took a deep breath and said, "Aunt Feng, I'm fine." Feng Xinyang was still afraid and rebuked. "Why are you so unafraid of death? You actually don't care about your own life." Tang Zheng forced out a smile and said, "I'm lucky. I won't die." Li Xiaotian looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated expression. She knew that it was some mysterious cultivator's cultivation technique that had played a role. She was immediately horrified. Cultivators are really heaven-defying existences. "Brat, where did you come from? Why can you still stand after taking my punch?" The third elder had always been very confident in his ability, but this time, it was completely beyond his expectations. Tang Zheng let out a cold laugh but did not comment. "Humph, I have a way even if you don't say it. Then take another punch of mine." The third elder fiercely pounced like a tiger and arrived in front of Tang Zheng. His huge fist rushed out like lightning. Tang Zheng hurriedly raised his other intact arm and used the heaven-devouring technique. Suddenly, an invisible vortex appeared in his palm. When the third elder's fist came into contact with his palm, the inner strength that gushed out was absorbed by the vortex. Tang Zheng was not injured at all. He couldn't help but look at the heaven-devouring technique in a new light. Originally, he thought it was just a chicken rib. He didn't expect it to have such a great effect. It could actually devour the enemy's inner strength. After the third elder hit Tang Zheng, he found that it was as if he had hit a ball of cotton. It was soft and the inner strength that gushed out disappeared without a trace. "What the hell?" The third elder shouted and quickly withdrew his fist. However, an iron fan appeared in his hand, and he pointed it at Tang Zheng's chest. Tang Zheng quickly retreated. The other party wanted to shake him with his inner strength. He could use the heaven-devouring technique to deal with it, but the other party used a weapon, so the heaven-devouring technique was useless. "Humph, you want to escape?" The third elder's heart was set. Although he didn't know what trick the other party had, it was obviously only effective against his fist technique. Against a weapon, he could only flee. Seeing that Tang Zheng was not a match for him, Feng Xinyang immediately rushed forward to rescue him. But the two of them were at a disadvantage against the third elder, and were in a dangerous situation. Li Xiaotian crossed her arms. She did not have any plans to make a move. She just wanted to see what else Tang Zheng was hiding. And furthermore, she wanted to force Tang Zheng to use the heaven-shocking bow, so that she could take the opportunity to snatch it away. Even though she and Tang Zheng were usually at peace, her goal was still to snatch the heaven-shocking bow, but Tang Zheng would not say anything even if she was beaten to death, so she had no choice. Now that he was in a desperate situation, she did not believe that he would still hide anything. Tang Zheng glanced at Li Xiaotian, but did not ask her to make a move like last time. He already understood Li Xiaotian quite well. She was a black-bellied girl. If she met other experts, she would still help, but the other party was the third elder of the martial sect, and a great master expert. She would definitely not interfere. Sure enough, Li Xiaotian remained indifferent. This was the campus of Yanqing University, so this kind of fight immediately attracted attention. Someone shouted, "Someone is fighting, damn, an expert, is this a movie? Where is the wire? How did this person jump so high?" Everyone surrounded him as if they were watching a good show, completely unaware of how dangerous this was. Not long later, the school security guard also arrived. He waved the rubber stick in his hand and shouted, "What are you doing? Quickly stop." However, the third elder turned a deaf ear to him and shouted, "You too die." The attacks became more and more intense, and the two of them almost couldn't hold on any longer. "Aunt Feng, let's leave this place quickly," Tang Zheng shouted. Feng Xinyang nodded. There were too many people here. If they continued to fight, it would definitely cause trouble. Tang Zheng leaped out of the crowd and shouted, "If you have the guts, come and catch me." Then he used the earth-shrinking technique and flew forward. "Brat, when I catch you, I will definitely tear you to pieces." How could the third elder just watch Tang Zheng slip away under his nose? He jumped up and chased after him. The other three people also quickly disappeared, leaving behind a group of stunned spectators. Damn, I was so engrossed in watching that I actually forgot to take a video. A person patted his head and said regretfully, "Haha, I didn't forget, I recorded it, I'm going to put it on the internet." This is too explosive. Who said that Wuxia martial arts were all flowery and impractical? This is the real Chinese martial arts. Someone praised. Others say that Chinese martial arts are not only for strengthening the body, but also for killing people. Did you guys feel the killing intent just now? Wow, if you didn't mention it, I would have overlooked it. Just now, I really did feel a kind of heart-palpitating feeling. I thought it was just an illusion, so it was the aura of an expert. Hurry up, put it on the internet. This video will definitely go viral. A moment later, a video and many photos appeared on the internet, and then an overwhelming number of reposts and comments appeared. Many people were shocked, but many people scoffed, thinking that this was all made by computer special effects, or some crew was shooting a movie. It was all fake. But of course, there are many people who believe that this is true, and say that this is the martial arts of Wuxia. And the two groups of people immediately confronted each other and launched a fierce discussion. Originally, these years, the debate about martial arts has been very fierce, and the country has also hosted some martial arts competitions, but those are really flowery and impractical. A group of sect leaders and disciples fighting in front of the camera, but they are soft and have no sense of strength at all, and are laughed at by many people. Some people who originally held a neutral attitude immediately joined the ranks of rejecting martial arts, thinking that the legends of leaping over eaves and vaulting over walls are deliberately exaggerated by some people. In fact, there is no martial arts at all. Wuxia's martial arts are in such an awkward position. Although it is called Chinese martial arts, in fact, it has declined in China. Many of the so-called famous sects are flowery and impractical, and martial arts have become dancing skills, which look very beautiful, but the actual combat is very poor. This is very different from Taekwondo, Muay Thai, Western fighting skills, Aikido, and so on, which are vigorously promoted by the power of the country abroad. These foreign fighting skills are very popular in Wuxia, making a lot of money and winning a lot of reputation. Many people have criticized Wuxia countless times, thinking that the foreign martial arts are the best, and their own martial arts are the dregs, and they are abandoned like worn-out shoes. This video shocked many people who believe in Wuxia's martial arts, and immediately had real evidence to fight back. But soon, some of the so-called famous sects jumped out and said that these are all fake, that they are all movie special effects, and that it is impossible for such martial arts to exist in the world. This is another blockbuster, and even the people in the martial arts world said so. Then everyone is one-sided in criticizing Chinese martial arts, thinking that this is a hype by some people with ulterior motives. This made many people who believed in martial arts very hurt. The two groups of people fought back and forth on the internet. However, the laymen enjoyed the show, while the experts enjoyed the skill. This video quickly spread abroad and into the eyes of some experts, causing many unexpected reactions. Chapter 345. Of course, Tang Zheng and the others did not know that their battle video would cause such a huge reaction on the internet. Tang Zheng was currently rushing towards the imperial city. Name Ai Owen Su, since the third elder was a grandmaster stage expert, and he was no match for him. Then he would let those who could deal with him take care of him. His movement technique was very fast, using the earth shrinking technique. Furthermore, he was obviously much more familiar with the roads in the capital than the third elder, so he left the third elder behind. The other three people followed behind as well, their speed a step slower than the third elder's. They were overwhelmed with shock. This Tang Zheng's speed was truly monstrous. To think that he was actually so fast. The few of them were too fast, and even the pedestrians on the road did not notice anything amiss. They rushed over like a whirlwind. Whiz! Tang Zheng leaped up, flipped over the tall city walls of the imperial city, and jumped in, while the others followed suit and entered the imperial city. The imperial city was also known as the Forbidden City, and there were many tourists. Tang Zheng instantly disappeared into the vast sea of people. The third elder looked around, but he actually could not find Tang Zheng's figure. Brat, let's see where you can hide. Relying on his movement technique speed, the third elder also disappeared into the sea of people, constantly searching for Tang Zheng's whereabouts. The other three were a step too late, and discovered that the two of them had already disappeared from their field of vision. No matter how hard they tried, they could not find them. Feng Xinyang was the most anxious. Tang Zheng was far from being a match for the third elder. If the third elder caught up to him, without any help he would definitely die. Li Xiaotian frowned and muttered, Tang Zheng, you must not die. Even if you want to die, you have to return my heaven-shocking bow to me. Wu's expression was the most complicated. She did not expect the third elder to directly take action, and even disappear without a trace. She did not have absolute confidence in the success of this mission. However, the three of them did not sit still and wait for death. They quickly disappeared into the crowd, searching for the whereabouts of the two of them. Tang Zheng didn't really run away. Instead, he led the third elder towards a large hall. A moment later, the two of them arrived at their destination. The third elder raised his head and looked around, but found that there were people in all directions. It was so crowded that not even a drop of water could trickle through. This imperial city was indeed one of the most lively scenic spots in the capital. The flow of people was too great, it was simply a sea of people. Brat, where are you hiding? Just now, I clearly saw him escape into this great hall. The third elder muttered. Hey, are you looking for me? Suddenly, a hand rested on the third elder's shoulder. The third elder was shocked and immediately turned his head. In front of him was Tang Zheng. Brat, you're courting death. The third elder flew into a rage. Just as he was about to attack, he discovered that the surrounding scenery had changed. The sea of people had completely disappeared. What was going on? The third elder turned pale with fright. For a moment he actually didn't understand what had happened. When he saw the bare stone walls around him, he realized that the situation was somewhat beyond his imagination. He looked at Tang Zheng in shock and asked, What did you do? Why are we suddenly here? What the hell is this place? Tang Zheng took a few steps back and laughed. Didn't you want to kill me? There are no outsiders here. Wouldn't that make it easier for you to do what you want? I'm asking you how you did it. In the blink of an eye, why are we here? The third elder asked with a murderous aura. Isn't your martial sect specialized in hunting cultivators? How come you don't even know the abilities of cultivators? Tang Zheng sneered. The third elder's eyes immediately widened as he exclaimed, "You are a cultivator." Tang Zheng did not answer, but waved his hands in the air, and the heaven-shocking bow appeared in his hands. Seeing Tang Zheng's move, how could the third elder not understand Tang Zheng's identity? He suddenly realized, "You are the mysterious cultivator that appeared in the valley." Tang Zheng laughed coldly. "Your martial sect really can't forget me. You must really want to kill me." Of course, the martial sect wants to kill all the cultivators in the world, and you are no exception. Humph, you have worn out iron shoes in vain, and found it without any effort. Brat, you are courting death. I don't need to spend so much effort to find you. The third elder pointed the iron fan in his hand in the air, and a huge wave of energy quickly attacked Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng's expression became serious. He pulled the bowstring, and with a buzzing sound, the bowstring vibrated, and an invisible arrow shot towards his opponent. Immediately, the two of them, one bow and one fan, were locked in a fierce battle. The air currents in the tunnel collided with each other, producing muffled sounds. However, the outside world could not hear anything at all. In addition, it was unknown how this tunnel was built, but it was actually incomparably sturdy. It was not damaged in the slightest during the battle between the two of them. With the help of the heaven-shocking bow, Tang Zheng could even kill a pre-celestial stage martial artist. His strength had increased greatly, and he had purposely opened up the distance between them. However, the third elder was not to be trifled with. After all, the cultivation of the first stage of the Grandmaster stage was much higher than that of Tang Zheng. After exchanging dozens of blows, the third elder had also figured out Tang Zheng's path. He thought to himself that this brat's cultivation was not that high, but the key was that the divine bow in his hand was strange and incomparably powerful. Brat, use whatever other abilities you have. I haven't personally hunted a cultivator for so many years. Today, I will use you as a sacrifice to my iron fan. The third elder roared and pounced forward. With a swoosh, the iron fan opened up and blocked the invisible arrow. Then with a wave of the iron fan, whoosh whoosh whoosh, several cold lights shot out from the iron fan. Tang Zheng dodged the hidden weapon with a somersault, shot out an arrow with the back of his hand, and quickly retreated. Brat, don't run! The third elder roared and chased after him as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, the two of them passed through the long tunnel, and the light in front of them suddenly increased. The third elder squinted his eyes, and saw that Tang Zheng had stopped in his tracks, and was looking at him with a smile that was not a smile. The third elder proudly shouted, "Brat, you have no way to escape, right?" Tang Zheng laughed. "Who said I was going to escape?" The third elder's heart trembled. He did not know what Tang Zheng was planning, but he thought to himself that he was much stronger than the other party, so he was not afraid of him playing any tricks. The third elder walked towards Tang Zheng step by step, and Tang Zheng slowly retreated into a spacious hall. Not long later, the third elder also walked into the hall. His eyes suddenly lit up, and a golden light flashed. He subconsciously used his hand to cover his eyes, and only when he got used to the golden light did he slowly move his hand away. Immediately his mouth opened wide, and his eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. A huge body was imprinted in his pupils, a 5-clawed golden dragon shining with golden light. Was this a dream? Or was this a sculpture? But it was too realistic, so vivid that it seemed like it could pounce at any time. Moreover, the dragon's might made people have an impulse to submit. Tang Zheng retreated to the side of the 5-clawed golden dragon, looked at the dumbfounded third elder and said, "How is the scenery here?" The third elder swallowed a mouthful of saliva before coming back to his senses, but his eyes were still unable to move away from the dragon's body. He trembled as he said, "This? How could there be this? Golden dragon, come and say hello to this guest." Tang Zheng waved his hand at the 5-clawed golden dragon and said, "Whoosh." The 5-clawed golden dragon snorted in disdain. Dragons were very proud creatures, and although the third elder was high and mighty in front of ordinary people, he was like an ant in front of the 5-clawed golden dragon. "It's alive, this dragon is really alive." A voice roared in the third elder's heart. This was not a sculpture, but a real dragon, a dragon from the legends. His face turned pale in an instant and his legs trembled. He had the urge to run away. There were too many legends about dragons, and this kind of creature had too many mysterious abilities. It was not something that ordinary people, or even ordinary warriors, could provoke. Even cultivators were afraid of this kind of creature, let alone him. But the key point was, why would a dragon appear here? And where was this place? And where did this dragon come from? Seeing Tang Zheng standing beside the five-clawed golden dragon, he was shocked. No wonder this brat was so confident. He had the help of a golden dragon. He did not know how Tang Zheng got together with the golden dragon. But no matter what, this time he was in big trouble, big trouble. Seeing the third elder's expression, Tang Zheng had already guessed the other party's thoughts and said, "Don't you want to kill cultivators? This golden dragon is also a creature that only exists in the world of cultivators. If you have the ability, then kill it first. Otherwise, don't shout about hunting cultivators all day." Dragon Slayer? Don't joke, that was only a legend, and he had never seen anyone kill a dragon in real life. Even the person who trapped the five-clawed golden dragon here could not kill it, and could only imprison it. The third elder's mouth was bitter, and he was so dry that he could not speak. After a while he said, "Tang Zheng, what do you want? You want to kill me? What do you think I will do?" Tang Zheng's face sank as he asked with a frosty expression. "You want to kill me? Kill me. The martial organization will not let you go," the third elder threatened. Tang Zheng shrugged indifferently and said, "Your martial organization will not let me go anyway. Moreover, who will know that I killed you? How can I kill you with my cultivation?" That's right, outsiders would definitely not believe that Tang Zheng had the strength to kill the third elder. After all, the difference in their cultivation was too great. "Don't worry, your martial organization will not discover this place, so even if you die, no one will find out," Tang Zheng said. "Where is this?" "Under the Imperial City. If you don't know how to control the formation, you will definitely not be able to come here." The Imperial City? I never thought that there would be a dragon hiding under the Imperial City. Tang Zheng sneered and patted the golden dragon. "It's time for you to show your skills." The five-clawed golden dragon disdainfully said, "This kind of ant is not worthy of me making a move." The third elder was called an ant by the golden dragon, but he had no way to refute it. Moreover, the golden dragon spoke in human language, which made him even more shocked. A mosquito is still meat. Moreover, if you don't kill him, are you going to let him starve to death here? That's too cruel. Humph, if it weren't for the fact that you are a celestial, I would be too lazy to make a move. The five-clawed golden dragon compromised. It seemed that it was rather afraid of Tang Zheng's identity as a celestial. The third elder did not know what a celestial was, but seeing that the five-clawed golden dragon seemed to be rather afraid of Tang Zheng, his mind became blank. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.